Chapter 853. This rest lasted for over a week. When Lu Chen had fully recovered, he finally received permission from the doctor to begin his exploration. Lu Chen carried the little beast with one hand and led Little Green, Rhubarb, and Little Furball toward the faint blue light in the distance. This blue light was being emitted by some special crystals on the walls. There weren't many of these crystals, but the light was very obvious. Strange, what are these crystals? They're not spirit stone mines. Lu Chen used his heavenly observation eye to discover that these crystals contained a large amount of spiritual power. Little Beast God, who was already a lot more obedient, suddenly began to dance with joy, as if it was very interested in these crystals. Little Beast, don't tell me you want to eat these crystals. Lu Chen was a little perplexed. Little Furball, these things? Lu Chen had just turned around when he discovered that Little Furball was biting into the hard rocks surrounding the crystals and pulling out an irregular crystal. It wanted to eat it. When it came to eating, Little Furball was definitely the king. Little Furball held the crystal and gnawed on it, but it soon stopped. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Lu Chen laughed heartily. Little Furball didn't like to eat inanimate objects. It preferred to eat living things, whether it was plants or animals, but crystals were really difficult to swallow. Little Furball jumped onto Little Beast God's back and gave the half-eaten crystal to Little Beast God. Little Beast God didn't even think before putting it into its mouth and chewing on it. After eating a piece, Little Beast God raised its hand again, as if it wanted Little Furball to help it get some more. It looked like Little Beast God really liked to eat these crystals. Perhaps it would be beneficial to its growth. There were at least 100 of these blue crystals on the walls of this several-kilometer-long passageway. The blue light at the end of the passageway was even more intense, so there might be even more crystals there. It looked like it would be enough for Little Beast God to eat for a while. However, Lu Chen's most urgent task was to find the spirit vein, so he didn't want to waste too much time here. Little Green, help me look after Little Beast God. Little Furball, you take down all these crystals. Give Little Beast God what he can eat and take away the rest. Remember to protect them. Rhubarb and I will go look for the spirit vein. Oh, by the way, check if there are any exits around. The black Qilin shouldn't have gone up from the astral winds. I don't believe it can withstand it. There should be other exits nearby. The group split into two. Harry Ball and the others took the crystals, while Lu Chen and Rhubarb continued forward. Not long after, Lu Chen and Rhubarb reached the end of the passage. Lu Chen realized that the blue light was coming from around the corner. There's still so much light even after turning a corner. Don't tell me there's another crystal mine inside. Lu Chen led Rhubarb into a corner. After turning the corner, Lu Chen was stunned. The passageway at the bottom of the abyss was actually quite spacious. It was estimated to be 200 to 300 meters wide. However, compared to the spacious area in front of him, that passage was as thin as a toothpick. The open area in front of him stretched for thousands of meters, and he couldn't see the end of it. In the center of the area, there was a huge irregular crystal floating in the air. It was dozens of meters tall, like a skyscraper. The crystal was cut neatly and shaped like a diamond. It emitted a faint blue light, illuminating the entire area like a dream palace. Such a big crystal? Lu Chen opened his eyes wide. If it was eaten by the little critter, it would be enough for him to eat for several years. Woof, woof, woof. Rhubarb barked a few times. Could this be the spiritual source of the spirit vein? Lu Chen looked at the crystal in astonishment. Spirit veins were nothing more than areas formed by powerful spiritual sources. There was no place that would form a spirit vein for no reason. Not to mention the 5 great spirit veins of the 5th heaven. Lu Chen suddenly understood. The spirit vein of the Demon Pupil Valley was formed by this huge crystal. Because of the existence of the crystal, over thousands of years, small crystals had formed on the surrounding walls. Of course, those were not spirit stones, but the miniature spirit that was thousands of times more valuable than spirit stones. No wonder the little critter had jumped down so impulsively. To it, the bottom of the abyss was an unimaginable treasure. Furball is too stubborn. It doesn't even want to eat the spirit vein. Well, that fellow can increase its strength by eating anything. Naturally, it would like delicious food. Since this was the spirit vein, it meant that Lu Qin had already found the spirit vein of the demon pupil valley. Now, what he needed to do was to unlock it. There was a formation in the plaza, which should be the key to sealing the spirit vein. As long as he could unlock the formation, the spirit vein would be unlocked. Looking at the spirit vein in front of him, Lu Qin narrowed his eyes slightly. The black Qilin had left. Even if there were astral winds blocking the outside, if one wanted to, the astral winds might be able to pass through. Furthermore, the black Qilin must know that there were other exits. In other words, if it did not guard this place, someone would be able to enter. When the black Qilin left, I was heavily injured, but it did not do anything. I think it wanted me to unlock the spirit vein. Lu Qin said to Rhubarb. The demonic beast sovereign has been reborn. One of the 4 heavenly kings, the black Qilin, has also left. If my guess is correct, it has already gone to find the demonic beast sovereign. Could it be that if I restart the 5th layer of heaven, I will also restart the war of gods and demons? If your guess is correct, then what will you choose? Suddenly, someone asked, giving Lu Qin a fright. The voice belonged to a man. It was very close, but Lu Qin did not notice a stranger approaching. This was originally an extremely frightening thing. Lu Qin instinctively jumped away and retreated to Rhubarb's side, vigilantly looking around. After opening his heaven's eye, Lu Qin did not discover anything. Who is it? Sneaking around, come out. Lu Qin said loudly. My name is Tai Xing. The voice seemed to be beside Lu Qin. Of course, if you are willing, you can also call me Origin God. Lu Qin reacted for a moment and quickly took out the Origin God token from his backpack. The previously dull and old wooden tablet had unknowingly taken on a new look. The words on it were faintly glowing red. The entire token seemed to be alive. It's you? Of course it's me. Every Origin God token has a trace of my spiritual energy. Otherwise, how could the natives not rely on the extraction scroll to cultivate? Solipsistic, ever since Tai gave me to you, I have been following you. And I have discovered that you are indeed an interesting person. Lu Qin did not comment. Why did you suddenly appear here? Do you know what this spiritual source is called? Lu Qin naturally did not know. Origin Crystal. The voice of the Origin God came from the wooden tablet. This is the origin stone of the planet under your feet. It gave birth to the mountains and rivers of Tai Xing and gave birth to the natives here. All of us natives are its children. Lu Qin opened his eyes wide and continued to listen to the Origin God. In the last great war of gods and demons, you foreign cultivators, although it was to protect yourselves, you also fought with the demonic beast army to the death. In the end, you were defeated. Heart Refining Academy, Divine Temple, Kunlun Temple, Thousand Calamity Valley, 7 great countries, 7 great gods of war, tens of millions of cultivators, hundreds of races, could not defeat the demonic beast army and were defeated. The voice of the Origin God seemed to have lost control and returned to the era of the gods and demons. Chapter 854. An image was projected from the wooden tablet and displayed in front of Lu Qin. He saw an extremely long battle line filled with cultivators from various races. At the front of the line stood 7 people. Lu Qin recognized one of them at a glance. It was the East Mountain Ice God from the ancient Snow Mountain City. Opposite them was an even larger army of demonic beasts. Countless demonic beasts swarmed towards the human army. Even the sky was blocked by the flying demonic beasts, making it impossible to see the sun. The battle was extremely tragic. At the beginning of the war, the cultivators could barely resist. However, as the demonic beasts were reborn again and again, their strength greatly increased. It became increasingly difficult for the humans to resist. Finally, the cultivator army began to collapse. Lu Qin was dumbfounded. Such a terrifying scale of war far exceeded any previous war in the heavens. Moreover, the 5th heavens were all fighting in their true forms. When people died, they really died. The cruelty of war was vividly displayed here. The voice of the Origin God sounded again. This is only one confrontation in the great war of gods and devils. There are countless battles taking place in various cities of the fifth heavens. Corpses and remains can be seen everywhere. The scene changed to a certain city that had been captured. The buildings here were beyond recognition. Thick smoke billowed everywhere. On the streets, children helplessly searched for their parents and relatives among the corpses on the ground. However, some demonic beasts passed by and mercilessly tore the children's bodies apart. The children in the fifth heavens should be the children of the Aborigines. Even the cultivators could not protect themselves. Who would care about their lives? The scene changed again. A cultivator riddled with scars dragged his heavily injured body to a secluded village. The villagers treated him respectfully. However, he took a fancy to a young and beautiful woman among the villagers. He actually molested the woman in front of the villagers who saved him. After his injuries were healed, he mercilessly massacred the entire village. Lu Chen's eyes widened. Was this also a scene from the Great War of Gods and Devils? In the Great War of Gods and Devils, the cultivators swore to protect the fifth heavens. However, they only protected themselves. In their eyes, we are nothing but livestock. We natives have always been a foil to you cultivators, but it seems that even the Jiutian have forgotten that we are also living people. The origin god's tone was a little angry. We have family, we have friends, we have joys and sorrows, we have dreams, we have emotions. However, a long, long time ago, our protectors lost an important war, causing this place to become the fifth heaven today. And we have become livestock in your eyes. The scene disappeared, leaving behind only Lu Qin, who was deep in thought. After a long while, the voice from the wooden tablets sounded again. What's laughable is that I exchanged my life for the fifth layer of heaven, and I also left behind 100 origin god tokens, but I still couldn't change the fate of the natives. Solipsistic, tell me, is this the will of the heavens? Lu Qin was silent for a long time, then let out a long sigh. I don't know if it's the will of the heavens, but I do know that there are still people working hard to change their fate. I know, I also saw it. Generation after generation of people have obtained power from the origin god tokens, and they are also passing down the origin god tokens. It's just that after 3,000 years, I still haven't seen the person who can change the fate of the natives. Lu Qin didn't know what to say. 3,000 years wasn't a short time, and it wasn't something that could be comforted by a light sentence like, there will always be such a person. Solipsistic, I unknowingly told you so much? You still haven't answered my question. If restarting the fifth layer of heaven means restarting some war, will you open this spirit vein? The origin god suddenly returned to the original topic, as if he had to know Lu Chen's answer. You have seen the cruelty of the war just now. Will you let it repeat itself? Lu Chen took a deep breath and asked, why do I have to answer you? Because you can't open the array on the ground. This array was set up by me. You sealed the origin crystal? Dragon-type magical beasts aren't the only ones who don't want you immortal cultivators to become stronger. The origin god said coldly. From this point, I am on the magical beast side. Lu Chen frowned slightly. The origin god did have sufficient reasons to not want the immortal cultivators to become stronger. If I open the spirit vein, what effect will it have on the magical beast army? Why does the black Qilin seem to want me to open the spirit vein? The origin god's voice replied, the spirit vein will allow the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to multiply, but in a short period of time, the immortal cultivators won't be able to enjoy the benefits of an abundance of spiritual energy. The sovereign magical beast destroyed the spirit stone mines everywhere. Apart from its own growth, it also cut off the way for you to obtain the extraction scroll. Therefore, in a short period of time, you won't be able to improve much. For the magical beast army, for example, the black Qilin, this array was set up by me, but it was the one who maintained the array for thousands of years. When you open the spirit vein, part of its power will return to its body. You only saw the black Qilin let you go, but you don't know that at that time, the black Qilin's power was less than 1/10 of its peak. Lu Chen took a deep breath. So it wasn't the black Qilin that missed the opportunity to kill him, but he missed the opportunity to kill the black Qilin. No wonder that fellow ran away so quickly. It was a trap. Lu Chen glanced at the origin crystal. After knowing so much, would he still open the spirit vein? After thinking for a long time, Lu Chen shook his head. I'm not sure either. I don't really care about the reward of that mission. It's just a spirit stone mine. And if I give up the remaining 4 spirit veins, the 4 heavenly kings of the magical beast army's power will decrease sharply. Perhaps the immortal cultivators will be able to stop the god and demon army. After hearing Lu Chen's answer, the origin god suddenly laughed. Ha! No wonder Tai would make an exception and give the origin god's token to an outsider like you. Lone tyrant, if it were any other immortal cultivator, they would have impatiently opened their spirit meridians just for the sake of the increase in their strength. They don't care about the lives of the natives at all. Lu Chen shook his head. My friends are here. Tai, Xiao Hui, Shui Er, Tai Shu, those hunting dragon village villagers who gave me gifts. What's the difference between Tai Star and my hometown? During the great war of gods and demons, even immortal cultivators couldn't protect themselves, let alone them? Only you would compare the natives with the people of your own world, let alone become true friends with them. The origin god said, Solipsistic, don't you understand? When you opened the spirit vein under the heavenly lake, the demonic beast supremacy was reborn. The 4 heavenly kings of the demonic beast gave up the spirit vein and returned to the demonic beast army. The 7 ancient gods awakened one after another. Solipsistic, the 5th heaven is bound to usher in a disaster even more terrifying than the previous great war of gods and demons. Even if you didn't open the spirit vein here and the 4 heavenly kings couldn't recover their power in a short time, it doesn't mean they can't recover. At the very least, they will have new 4 heavenly kings. If the demonic beast supremacy doesn't die, it will be the beginning of the disaster. The gears of fate have already been set in motion. No one can stop it. The second great war of gods and demons is inevitable. It's only a matter of time. Lu Chen frowned. If that's the case, why do you still care whether I can open the spirit vein or not? The origin god sighed. This is only a small test for you, to let me see clearly what kind of person you are. Fortunately, Tai didn't misjudge you. I will open the spirit vein here for you. Not only that, I will also tell you the location of the other 3 ancient spirit veins. But you must promise me one thing. What is it? Lu Chen frowned. Do everything you can to stop the demonic beast supremacy. Chapter 855. Lu Chen said without hesitation, I promise you. Anyway, if I want to go to the 6th heaven, I can't avoid that guy. Good, even though the prophecy says that there is no solution, you and I are both people who don't believe in the heavens. I, Tai Xing, am willing to place all my bets on you, the one who tied the bell. The appearance of the origin god gave Lu Chen a complete understanding of the ancient war between gods and demons. Whether it was the 7 ancient gods or the origin god, it was impossible to say who really ended that cruel war. If one were to say who defeated the magical beast army, it could only be said that it was the countless immortal cultivators and the native cultivators. However, the origin god was undoubtedly the most crucial link. It was he who used the power of the origin crystal to defeat the supreme magical beast and completely destroy the magical beast army. After receiving Lu Chen's reply, the wooden tablet poured out a steady stream of spiritual energy and flowed along the talisman array on the ground. Suddenly, a cloud of black gas appeared in the array and quickly condensed into the appearance of a black qilin. Lu Chen hurriedly prepared to fight, but the origin god said, Don't be nervous, that's the spiritual energy it left behind. When I remove the seal, its spiritual energy will also return to the main body. At this moment, Lu Chen couldn't help but feel a huge pressure. Opening the spirit vein meant that he would be able to release the full power of the 4 heavenly kings of the magical beast army. It was as if this magical beast army was created by him alone. As expected, as the array was gradually unsealed, the black qilin's spiritual energy rushed to the northwest corner of the area in the blink of an eye and fled through an inconspicuous passage. Is that the exit? Lu Chen immediately realized this point. Now he didn't have to look for it. Soon, the array beneath the origin crystal was filled with spiritual energy. The characters on the array flashed with golden light and then suddenly collapsed as if they were solid. With a boom, the origin crystal was like a sleeping beast that was suddenly awakened and instantly exploded with a terrifying spiritual energy storm. Lu Chen hurriedly called back Rhubarb. Solipsistic, the origin crystal's spiritual energy is quickly recovering. You should be able to bear it. Cultivate immediately and you will benefit greatly. The origin god shouted anxiously. 30 days. 30 days later, before the origin crystal's spiritual energy completely recovers, we must leave this place. Under the violent storm of spiritual energy, Lu Chen's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. No, my friends are still here. I have to find them first. He was talking about Luo Yao. As for the little furball and the others, 30 days was enough for them to dig out all the origin crystal fragments and come looking for him. Only Luo Yao didn't know if he was dead or alive. She waited for you at the entrance of the cave for 7 days. He left the day before yesterday. He left the day before yesterday? Have you forgotten that you've been recuperating here for 10 days? Something big happened in the Dongyu Nation and she stayed here to guard you for 7 days. Anyone with a bit of sense would know that you're dead. That girl is also infatuated? Lu Chen asked in surprise, but how did you know? Don't forget, there's more than one origin divine medallion. Lu Chen suddenly remembered that if the origin god knew his identity, he must know about the other people who had the origin god token. Perhaps there were natives in the Dongyu kingdom who had the origin god token. Hurry up and cultivate. Lu Chen hurriedly sat down cross-legged and entered the demonic god symbiosis state, increasing the speed of his spirit energy cultivation. However, Lu Chen suddenly discovered that his spirit energy was increasing by 80 points every minute, which was no different from normal. What's going on? I should be cultivating near the spirit source, so my cultivation speed should be doubled. Lu Chen said in astonishment. The origin god said, the origin crystal's ability is different from the holy mountain spirit vein. You're cultivating your main body here. What? Main body? Lu Chen was stunned. Yes, the origin crystal is a 5th heavenly layer origin crystal. It can't upgrade the war soul, but it can strengthen your main body. But my main body is permanently damaged. Even if it's not damaged, it's still restricted by the main body's spirit energy and war soul. I can't help you even if it's permanently damaged, but the origin crystal can break through the restriction of spirit energy. The origin god spoke much faster, as if wasting more time was equivalent to increasing many attributes. The human's main body's 3 dimensions is 3 times the spirit energy. This can't be broken, but the origin crystal can help you break through. Here, you can't even increase any of your 3-dimensional attribute points. What you increase is the multiplication of 3 dimensions. Lu Chen was shocked. In other words, the origin crystal could increase a person's main body's 3 dimensions by 3 times the spirit energy. This was a qualitative change that broke through the racial restriction. Then how do I cultivate? My cultivation method can only increase spirit energy. Do you still remember how you came down? The origin god said, enter the selfless state and don't try to use any spirit energy to resist the origin crystal's spirit energy. Let the origin crystal help you reconstruct your body. Remember, directly using the origin crystal's power to reconstruct your body and using the spirit energy it emits to strengthen your body are 2 different concepts. The spirit energy emitted by the origin crystal has no consciousness, but the origin crystal does. In ancient times, everyone could use this spirit vein to strengthen their body, but only a few people could use the origin crystal's main body to strengthen their body. To do this, you must obtain its approval. As for how much you can reconstruct your body, it depends on how much the origin crystal approves of you. When I was in danger, the origin crystal made my body 10 times stronger than my spirit energy. Lu Chen hurriedly asked, then how do I get its approval? The origin god said, it depends on your heart. Lu Chen nodded and asked again, if I reconstruct my body, will my arm be repaired? I don't know. I didn't lose my arm back then. It depends on your luck. By the way, I will tell your battle pets not to disturb you. Just focus on cultivating. Lu Chen hurriedly nodded. He could think about losing his arm later. Right now, he had to seize every second to strengthen his body. This upgrade was very important to him. Selfless state. Lu Chen took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down, allowing the violent spirit energy storm to wash over his body. This feeling was actually similar to the astral wind, but the spirit energy storm wouldn't corrode his body. Selfless state. Activate. Everything in the world only had one heart. He couldn't feel his body. His 5 senses had all disappeared. He could only feel with his mind. Spirit energy existed forever. 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, the Origin God found that Lu Chen's body hadn't been strengthened at all. The Origin God sighed. It seems that the Origin crystal didn't approve of him. However, Lu Chen didn't feel any of this. He was just in the selfless state. Lu Chen seemed to have returned to the heaven-mending illusion realm. He wasn't himself, he was just a divine stone. What appeared in front of him was the great war of gods and demons. The suffering of the common people and the suffering of the people. The people of the ancient heart refining academy swore to protect the 5th heaven. The 7 ancient gods all fell. Tens of millions of cultivators rushed forward. The swirl world. 17 years later, the earth was invaded by a strong enemy. Even if Lu Chen changed the course of history, would the earth become the next Tai star? Who would become the next level 5? Even if there was no great war of gods and demons, so what? The dragon hunting village was innocently massacred by the Azure Dragon Gate. Hundreds of thousands of natives were buried with the ice god. Atai's true love was taken away. The second great war of gods and demons was about to begin. This was an endless game. The world was heartless. Gods and demons fought. Lives were like grass. Who would care about the common people? He couldn't save everyone, but at least he had to protect the earth and Lu Yi. For this, he would become stronger regardless of anything. Then he could only wake up from the nightmare. The supreme demon beast wouldn't die? The demons wouldn't stop? In the wonderful state of selflessness, Lu Chen seemed to feel that his consciousness seemed to speak. Origin crystal, although I'm from the Jiutian, please give me power that surpasses the Jiutian. There was actually another deep and ancient voice that responded to him. Why? Defy the heavens. Lu Chen only replied with 2 words. Chapter 856. The little furball and the others had been waiting for Lu Chen for a long time, but they hadn't seen any changes in their boss in the past 10 days. Until this moment, the flow of spirit energy in the surroundings suddenly changed. All the spirit energy rushed toward Lu Chen and formed a spiraling pillar of wind around Lu Chen. The wind grew faster and faster until it lifted Lu Chen's body into the air. However, the boss body didn't react at all and allowed the spirit energy to wash over him. The little beast god didn't understand. Seeing that its boss was in danger, it became restless in Lu Yi's arms. Little beast, don't go. Boss body seems to be getting stronger. Only then did the little beast calm down. The Origin divine medallion on the ground glowed as a projection emerged from it. Lu Yi and the others weren't unfamiliar with this projection. It was this projection that had stopped them when they came to meet up with the boss. Because all the spirit energy in the surroundings was revolving around Lu Chen, they wouldn't be affected by the spirit energy storm as long as they stayed away from Lu Chen. The Origin deity frowned as he looked at the scene in front of him in astonishment. What's going on? Why is the Origin crystal reacting so strongly when it hasn't acknowledged him before? Even I couldn't have reached such a level of remodeling back then. The Origin crystal is actually using all the escaping spirit energy to reconstruct his body. This guy, what's going on? 15 days, 18 days, 20 days. Lu Chen's body allowed the wind to wash over him. It even gave people the illusion that he was a part of the storm. 25 days, 28 days. As the Origin crystal's spirit energy recovered, the remodeling became more and more intense. Not good, it's been 28 days. The remodeling can only last 30 days at most. After 30 days, the Origin crystal's spirit energy will be completely restored. At that time, it won't be able to control its own spirit energy and will erupt. This place will collapse and there won't be any living creatures left. Judging from the depth of this place, they might be tens of thousands of meters underground. If this place really collapsed, they would be buried alive. Add to that the eruption of spirit energy, it would be even more intense than the eruption of spirit energy from the heavenly lake. On the 30th day, Lu Chen heard a voice in the dark. Solipsistic, I've done my best to reconstruct and strengthen your body. Now, your physical strength can reach 30 times that of your spiritual power. It's just that your physical body is permanently damaged. In reality, you can only reach 15 times. You are not from Thailand, so I am unable to repair your body. I hope you can find your own destiny in the future. The path of defying the heavens is your choice. Don't forget your original intention. Don't forget Tai Xing. Go, take your people and leave this place quickly. Immediately, Lu Chen was flung out. The wind formation was currently extremely ferocious, but it was still maintained within a certain area. However, the ground was already shaking violently, and huge rocks were constantly falling from above. Lu Chen regained his intuition. The origin crystal is trying its best to stall for time. Little Green. Lu Chen saw Little Green and the others not far away. Triple Gate. Lu Chen quickly moved in front of Little Green and the others. Come back, I'll bring you guys out. Lu Chen picked up Little Green and the little fur ball with one hand. Boss, the token on the ground. Little Green hastily shouted. Lu Chen followed Little Green's gaze and saw the token. He listened attentively and picked up the token. Then, he quickly moved towards the exit he discovered earlier. The origin crystal seemed to be unable to control the eruption of spirit energy. The wind in the surroundings suddenly increased sharply. The ground instantly cracked, and the surrounding rock walls cracked. Countless huge rocks and chunks of earth fell down. Shit, we're going to be buried alive. 9 void steps. Lu Chen crazily rushed towards the exit. Lu Chen had fallen for more than 2 hours before reaching the bottom of the abyss. Even though he had discovered the exit and didn't need to pass through the astral winds, the distance was still quite far. Lu Chen had no choice but to activate divine demon symbiosis and triple reincarnation to escape. Damn it, the path is about to be sealed. Lu Chen's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Little critter, fly by yourself and follow me closely. Fierce tiger descends the mountain, suppress it with fire. However, the suppressive fire couldn't keep up with the speed of the tunnel's collapse. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Sacred lotus sword heart. Lu Chen was forced into a corner. He couldn't even bear to use the sacred lotus sword heart in a fight. Not only did he use it, but he also used it 3 times in a row. Only then did he open up a path. At this moment, a certain rock mass in the Demon Eye Valley was violently collapsing. It was at this time that a figure directly broke through the rock mass and shot out. Fortunately, there was no one here. Otherwise, a local eunuch would have popped out from the ground. This local eunuch was none other than Lu Chen. In the end, the path was completely sealed off, and he could only forcefully cut open a path to get out of the rock mass. As soon as he came out, Lu Chen encountered a huge earthquake. A large area of the ground around him collapsed as if it was the end of the world. No, it's not safe here. The cliffs on both sides of the valley were lowered due to the collapse of the ground. Lu Chen didn't care about the wind and spread his wings to rush to the top of the cliff. Perhaps it was because of the drastic change in the spiritual energy here, Lu Chen successfully rushed to the top of the cliff. When he turned back, he saw that everywhere he looked was falling. Lu Chen shook his head. The collapse this time was even fiercer than the one at the heavenly lake. Fortunately, he ran quickly. Otherwise, he would have been buried alive. The Demon Eye Valley's spirit vein is finally open. Then I don't need to return to the valley. Thinking of this, Lu Chen quickly left this place and went far away. After staying in the Demon Eye Valley for nearly half a year, Lu Chen hadn't been on land for a long time. Although he was on land, the surroundings were still dense with forests. However, there were no cliffs blocking the way, so it wasn't as oppressive. It was said that most of the magical beasts in the Baishur nation lived in the Demon Eye Valley. Although the forests above were not fewer than in the Dongyu nation, magical beasts were rare. After leaving the Demon Eye Valley's spirit vein, Lu Chen slowed down and found a lakeside to camp. Ah, I really want to sleep on the bed. Lu Chen placed Little Beast on the ground. Little Beast, I'm going to take a shower. I'm covered in mud and my lonely shadow fishing is ruined. I only have this newbie outfit to cover my body. It's just nice to change into a new set of clothes. Lu Yi, Xiaomin, Rhubarb, and Furry were all there. Lu Chen was quite relieved. After taking a bath in the water, Lu Chen changed into the Bloodlust Sword God's clothes that Flame Demon had given him. I have to buy a few sets of clothes when I have time. The set that Flame Demon gave me has too much demonic aura. If I wear it normally, it will inevitably cause trouble. There's also a couple set. Sigh, I said I would leave it for my future partner. In the end, I'm still alone. He hadn't found a girlfriend when he was healthy, let alone now that he was disabled. Taking a bath was also the best time to think. Lu Chen pondered while taking a bath. The Origin God said that there's a big mess in the Dongyu Nation. I don't know what's going on. Luo Yaodin give me a personal voice transmission talisman. After thinking for a while, Lu Chen said to the Origin God's token, Origin God, where are the other 3 spirit veins? Are there any that pass by the Dongyu Nation? The token lit up slightly. Yes. To the east of the Dongyu Nation is the 4 nations of the Great Wilderness. The 4 nations of the Great Wilderness is one of the 7 major nations of the 5th heaven. However, they are divided into 4 smaller nations. In the middle of the 4 nations of the Great Wilderness, there's a mountain called Chu Tianshan. There's a spirit vein in the mountain. Alright, then let's go to the 4 nations of the Great Wilderness. Lu Chen said. I don't think you can go with your current level. The 4 nations of the Great Wilderness only allow the strong to enter. Without an earth cultivation level, you'll be chased out before you even enter, let alone Chu Tianshan in the hinterland. The lowest earth cultivation level? Lu Chen shook his head. Suddenly, his eyes widened. That's too exaggerated. There are many foreign races there. There are also many dominant races. Even an earth cultivation level cultivator wouldn't dare to cause trouble there. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Forget it. Let's not worry about that for now. We'll go to the Dongyu Nation to see what's going on. Chapter 857. Lu Chen still had more than 80,000 cash withdrawal scrolls. He didn't use them in time because of Eitai's sudden appearance. He used them all during this break. Lu Chen opened his personal panel and looked at his attributes. His spiritual energy was 45,100 points, but his all-creation bloodline had increased by 4,100 points. His 3-dimensional base value was 46,000. After his all-creation bloodline reached 51,000 points, half of it had lost its effect due to permanent damage, leaving him with about 25,000 points. Losing an arm was really troublesome. His physical strength returned to its pre-liberation state. While studying his attributes, Lu Chen suddenly thought of a serious problem. Would physical damage affect the battle soul's attributes? He asked the Origin God later and got the answer, no. If it won't affect the battle soul, then I'd better upgrade my spiritual energy. Adding points to 3-dimensional attributes is too low. If it doesn't work, I can only use soul body as one. Moreover, Lu Chen's destination was the 4 countries of the wasteland. Cultivation level was important there. Even if he couldn't reach earth cultivation, it would be less troublesome to reach a higher level. After thinking about it, Lu Chen added all the cash withdrawal scrolls to his spiritual energy. First, he added 9,000 points. Without counting the myriad race's bloodline, Lu Chen's spiritual energy was exactly 50,000 points. Lu Chen was promoted to a 9-star wild cultivator. Breakthrough requires 25,000 points. Damn, it's so expensive. Lu Chen had no choice but to spend 25,000 points to break through to a grand cultivator. After an hour of body reconstruction and strengthening, Lu Chen was finally promoted to a 1-star wild cultivator. Damn, this name, Wild Cultivator, I can't stand the word wild. From wild monster to wild cultivator, Lu Chen seemed to be walking in the opposite direction of normal people. He couldn't stop. After becoming a grand cultivator, one level required 30,000 cash withdrawal scrolls. For Lu Chen, who lived in poverty, It was an astronomical figure. So expensive. No wonder people can't reach earth cultivation after so many years. I'm just a grand cultivator and I need 25,000 cash withdrawal scrolls. How much does emperor cultivation like Luo Yao need? It turned out that Lu Chen was still thinking too simply. Starting from grand cultivator, the number of cash extraction scrolls required for each star was no longer fixed. Each star would increase the number of cash extraction scrolls required by 5,000 points. He used 25,000 to break through, 30,000 to go from 1 star to 2 star, and 35,000 to go from 1 star to 2 star. Lu Chen suddenly realized that after he had leveled up to a 2-star wild cultivator, the cash extraction scroll was not enough for him to level up to the next star. Fuck, only to be promoted to 2-star great cultivator? Lu Chen shook his head helplessly as he looked at the remaining 20,000 cash withdrawal rolls in his hand. Forget it, I'll just add a point to vitality. Otherwise, I won't have enough stamina. 20,000 points were exchanged for 60,000 points of 3D attributes, all of which were added to physique. Under the condition of permanent damage, only 30,000 of them were effective. Exchanging 20,000 cash withdrawal scrolls for 30,000 physique points, Lu Chen felt that he had really suffered a huge loss. In an instant, 80,000 cash extraction scrolls were squandered. Lu Chen checked his attributes again. Now, Lu Chen's spiritual energy had reached 115,500 points, which included 105,000 points of basic spiritual energy and 10,500 points of myriad tribes bloodline. His strength and dexterity were still less than 26,000, but his physique had increased by 30,000, which was around 56,000. Your cultivation level has been raised to 2-star wild cultivator. Ranking: within 1 million, you are allowed to activate the 5th heavens, myriad species cultivation level overall ranking, myriad species cultivation 4 single attribute overall ranking, and myriad species arena. After activating the 3 rankings, you can receive the reward of synthesizing items. Lu Chen looked at the small line of explanation behind the ranking, dumbfounded. Myriad tribes ranking? What the hell? Open it and take a look. Refreshing ranking. Myriad tribes cultivation level ranking, 5th heaven after 50 million. Myriad tribes cultivation single attribute, strength after 100 million. Myriad tribes cultivation single attribute, dexterity after 100 million. Myriad tribes cultivation single attribute, physique after 100 million. Myriad tribes cultivation single attribute, spiritual energy after 50 million. Myriad tribes arena, no data. When he saw the new ranking, Lu Chen looked like he had nothing to live for. What the hell? Don't tell me that the previous ranking only counted humans. Damn, I finally made it to the top 1 million, and now I'm back. My hands are too cheap. Why the hell did I start a ranking? I might as well stay in the top 1 million. But if I'm ranked on the rankings, will I get the reward of synthesizing items? Lu Chen rubbed his chin and narrowed his eyes, feeling a little tempted. But after thinking about it, synthesizing items was not as practical as cashing in. He was a little uninterested. Forget it. I'll rank as many as I want. Apart from the arena, I can't make it to the top as I wish. It's been a long time since I've been so poor. After resting in the forest for a night, Lu Chen got up early the next morning and walked in the direction of the East Peak Nation. Now, Lu Chen only had one arm, and he still had to carry the little beast deity. It was really inconvenient, so he made a simple bamboo basket and used the torn cloth of Lonely Shadow fishing as the straps. Little beast, this will be your little nest from now on. Don't run around, okay? Lu Chen put the little beast deity into the bamboo basket and carried it on his back as he continued on his way. After walking for about half a day, Lu Chen saw a town in front of him and immediately rushed to the town's business district. When he reached the town, Lu Chen heard that the magical beast supreme had destroyed a few spirit stone mines. It seemed that the magical beast supreme had not been idle during the half-year when Lu Chen opened the spirit vein. The spirit stone mines had been attacked many times, resulting in the scarcity of cashing in. Now, it was very unlikely that he could buy cashing in the shops. Lu Chen did not have much hope. After asking around and finding that there were no cashing and cashing in, he went to the town to replenish his daily necessities. In addition, he bought a backpack for carrying babies and a milk bottle. Milk bottle? Lu Chen looked at the milk bottle in his hand with a gloomy expression. He came to cultivate. Why did he have to buy this thing? In short, it was a bit inappropriate to see the little beast deity drinking water by the river and being seen by others. After that, Lu Chen entered a fashion shop. The boss was cleaning the shop with a feather duster when he suddenly saw a customer enter and hurriedly turned his head. As soon as he turned his head, he saw a stay-at-home dad with a broken arm handing a milk bottle to the baby on his back. Fortunately, Lu Chen had a badge on his chest. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to associate this person with an immortal cultivator. Grandmaster Ono? The boss opened his eyes wide, unable to believe what he saw with his own eyes. Lu Chen weakly corrected him, "It's Grandmaster Ono." "Boss, do you have any good fashion products? Combat, fishing, or cooking are all fine too." The boss of a small shop was much more enthusiastic than the people of a big shop. Seeing that the customer did not want to be confused about his rank, he did not pursue the matter and hurriedly introduced his products. "Customer, you really came at the right time. Combat-type items are relatively rare, and we don't have them here either. However, we do have two top-quality items. One of them is the best fishing outfit in the 5th layer of heaven, Lonely Shadow Fishing. This is the pride of the heavenly judge, and it's a top-quality item. We also have cooking products, medicine refining products, and mining products. Would you like to take a look?" Lu Chen immediately became interested. "So many? Then let me take a look." Chapter 858. The boss was also an honest person. He took out 7 or 8 sets in one go. Only now did Lu Chen know that the Lonely Shadow Solo Fishing was actually made by a tailor. This Lonely Shadow Solo Fishing added 10 points to the chance of catching a big fish and 10 points to the chance of a rare dragon species. It was even better than the one that Lu Chen had bought before. It only cost 8,000 spirit stones. With such a good quality item, if it was not for fishing, not to mention fighting, even if it was for refining or alchemy, the price would be 10 times higher. Lu Chen did not hesitate. He first put the Lonely Shadow Solo Fishing into his shopping cart. The cooking set was indeed a little ugly. Moreover, the attributes were very average. The price was actually not cheap. Lu Chen decisively gave up. However, Lu Chen was a little moved by the alchemy set. This was a women's set. It was a light purple dress with a little pink color. The edges of the dress were exquisite and the workmanship was very exquisite. In terms of attributes, it added 5 points to the success rate of refining pills and 3% to the success rate of refining high-level pills. Although it could not be compared to the Lonely Shadow Solo Fishing, it was definitely a very strong increase in alchemy sets. "Young man, are you buying this for your child?" The boss had just sold a Lonely Shadow Solo Fishing set. His attitude towards Lu Chen was particularly warm. "But don't blame me for being nosy. Are you an aboriginal?" The 5th layer of heaven was a physical interstellar transportation. Immortal cultivators could also have children between men and women. However, almost no immortal cultivators would give birth to their children in the Jutian. After all, it was too dangerous here. Therefore, generally speaking, the children in the 5th layer of heaven were all aboriginal. Lu Chen nodded. "Just treat me as an aboriginal. How many spirit stones is this set of divine pesticide girl?" "This, I was originally planning to sell it for cash. Cash for cash is too rare right now. I don't have it on hand." Lu Chen said. "Are you selling it for spirit stones? If you are, name a price." The boss was most afraid of this kind of person. If he was not careful, this big deal would be gone. He weighed the pros and cons and said, "Forget it, forget it. Spirit stones are spirit stones. Spirit stones are scarce right now. 500,000. 100,000. Young man, you don't bargain like this." The boss almost vomited blood. This fellow had cut everything down to skin. 200,000. 300,000, at most 300,000. That's all the spirit stones I have. If you don't want to sell, I'll buy that Lonely Shadow Fishing set. The boss struggled for a long time. 350,000. This is an apothecary fashion. It's not on the same level as the fishing fashion. No matter how good the fishing fashion is, it's not worth much. I'm just opening a shop in a small place. In a big city, there will definitely be people fighting for 400,000 yuan. Lu Chen nodded. All right, 350,000. You can give me that solitary fishing set. You said it yourself that it wasn't worth much anyway. A moment later, the boss sent this enemy away with a long face. After leaving the town, Lu Chen called out Little Green excitedly. Little Green had been paying attention to this set of clothes for a long time. She knew that Lu Chen must have bought it for her. Little Green, try it on. Lu Chen handed the set of clothes to Little Green. After putting on the new clothes, Little Green twirled around. The hem of the clothes floated up slightly. Lu Chen couldn't help but nod in approval. Too beautiful. I didn't make a loss. Thank you, boss. Little Green happily ran over and hugged Lu Chen's arm. I finally have new clothes. And this attribute, it's really strong. It's just that boss spent a lot of money. 350,000, that's a lot of spirit stones. Lu Chen smiled and said, 350,000 is nothing. If I see something good in the future, I'll buy it for you. Oh, there's also Xiao Min and the medicine boy. Later, I'll see if there's anything suitable for them. However, Little Green, I suddenly discovered a problem. And? Boss, what did you discover? Lu Chen frowned and said, actually, the status of the aboriginals is not because they are aboriginals, but because they are too weak. Just now when I was buying things, the boss was still very polite. He didn't deliberately cause trouble for me because he thought I was an aboriginals because I have money. The aboriginals are bullied. In the end, it's because there are no strong people among them. Little Green also stopped smiling and nodded. Boss, what you said makes sense. In the 9 heavens, the strong are respected. It's just that the aboriginals have a hard time cultivating. It gives people the feeling that no matter how much they bully them, they don't have to worry about the consequences. Lu Chen nodded. This time, the reopening of the 5 heavens might be an opportunity for them. Crisis and opportunity coexist. For everyone, it's the same. When the original deity asked Lu Chen if he would open the spiritual vein, Lu Chen didn't give a direct answer because he was also very hesitant. But now, he was even more determined to open the spiritual vein. He couldn't help all the aboriginals, but he could give them a chance to become stronger. When the spiritual chi in the 5 heavens recovered, the aboriginals would also be able to enjoy the benefits. He believed that when the time came, their fates would be turned upside down. Let's go and take a look at the Dongyu Nation. Lu Chen didn't feel it and quickened his pace. In the Dongyu Nation's capital, the royal family gathered in the Dongyu Palace. In the palace, a woman in military attire sat on the throne. Jade Emperor, there have been more than 10 demonic beast invasions at our borders. The scale is getting bigger and bigger. In the most recent one, our garrison suffered heavy casualties. If not for the timely arrival of reinforcements, I'm afraid the city would have been breached. A general reported to the Jade Emperor. Sitting on the throne was Luo Yao, who had been with Lu Chen for 5 months. But now, Luo Yao didn't have the relaxed and casual attitude she had when she was with Lu Chen. She was emitting the aura of a ruler, like a mother of the world. Which city? Luo Yao narrowed her eyes slightly. A few days ago, she and Lu Chen broke into the spirit vein abyss of the Demon Pupil Valley. At that time, Lu Chen fell off the cliff, and she was lucky to escape. Then, she waited on the cliff for 7 days and 7 nights, but she didn't receive any news from Lu Chen. Instead, she received an urgent report from the Dongyu Nation. Although she was worried about Lu Chen's safety, she was, after all, the ruler of the Dongyu Nation. So, she had to rush back to the Dongyu Nation overnight. Tianshui City in the west. Tianshui City? Luo Yao narrowed her eyes slightly. That's where the aboriginals gather, right? Jade Emperor, there are indeed many aboriginals tribes there. They originally relied on the protection of Tianshui City to survive. How are the casualties of the aboriginals? The general was stunned for a moment. The Jade Emperor had never asked about the lives of the Aboriginals before. Why did she suddenly ask this today? Jade Emperor, I didn't calculate the exact number, but the great defensive array of Tianshui City won't protect them. So, I speculate that the casualties should be heavy. Luo Yao's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. After being with the solipsistic for half a year, she seemed to have changed a lot. That guy should be dead by now. Thinking of this, Luo Yao's heart tightened. Pass down my order. Let the Aboriginals enter the city and provide protection. In addition, activate the Dongyu Emergency Battle Order. This? Jade Emperor, you're saying to activate the Emergency Battle Order? That's the entire nation. Everyone had a look of surprise on their faces. Luo Yao took a deep breath, stood up, and said to everyone in a deep voice, "The heavenly tribulation is coming. Only by mobilizing the entire nation can we fight." Chapter 859. Luo Yao and her brother, King Wu, returned to the study together. Perhaps only in front of her brother would Luo Yao relax a little. She sighed and sat down, looking a little tired. "Luo Yao, you've just returned from a long journey. You'd better rest first." Luo Yao shook her head. She looked at King Wu in front of her and suddenly thought of that person. Was there any hope for that person to survive? "What's wrong, Luo Yao?" King Wu frowned and asked, "I saw that you were listless after returning from Baisher. Also, you seem to have changed a lot. What did you do?" "Don't ask." Luo Yao interrupted King Wu. "Is there any news about the 7 war gods?" King Wu immediately replied, "It said that 6 of the 7 ancient war gods have been revived. Only our East Peak Ice God is missing." "The East Peak Ice God won't be revived." Luo Yao said, "Where are the other 6 war gods now? What's the situation?" "They're all in their own countries. They're all recovering their battle strength as soon as possible." Luo Yao took a deep breath, stood up, and walked to the window. She looked at the capital outside the East Peak Palace. "I didn't expect the demonic beast army to move so quickly. It won't be long before this peaceful world can only appear in memories." Luo Yao, according to the Heavenly Master's prophecy, is the heavenly tribulation about to begin? King West. Looking at the current situation, it should be the training phase. After all, the sovereign demonic beast hasn't fully matured yet. Only the black Qilin has appeared among the 4 heavenly kings. King Wu looked at Luo Yao's back in surprise. After returning from Baisher, the Jade Empress seemed to have learned a lot about the prophecy. "Luo Yao, do you think the sovereign demonic beast? Didn't it fall long ago? Could it have been revived? Also, have you seen the black Qilin?" "Yes, it's revived." Luo Yao turned to King Wu and said, "I've seen the black Qilin too. I believe the 4 heavenly kings will appear soon. We still have time now. Wait for the national order to be passed down. We need to open the national treasury and raise everyone's strength. All the major cities need strong command to protect the cities. This tribulation is a matter of life and death. You must lend me a hand." King Wu placed a hand on his chest and bowed slightly. "Your subject will do his best." Luo Yao nodded, her eyes deep and profound. "Raise an army for 1,000 days to use it in a single moment. Those members of the royal family should stop living like princes and send them to the front lines. All experts, move out. Also, protect the natives as much as possible. If I find out who killed the Aborigines, I will punish them according to military law." Jade Emperor, isn't this request a bit too much? Those people are just insignificant existences. King Wu asked in confusion. Although not all cultivators were bloodthirsty and indiscriminate, the order to protect the natives was extremely rare in the entire 5th heaven. This was also not the style of the previous Jade Emperor. Luo Yao didn't want to explain further. Try your best to move the scattered natives into the defense arrays of the major cities. Go arrange these things. After she finished speaking, Luo Yao turned around and didn't want to say anything else. "Yes, Your Majesty will do it right away." The sound of the door closing came from behind her. After Luo Yao noticed it, her sharp gaze instantly became unusually tired. It wasn't a physical exhaustion, but a mental exhaustion. Solipsistic, I should have stayed to look for you, but Are you dead or alive? Luo Yao's beautiful face was filled with tears. In this chaotic world, love became insignificant. Moreover, she was the Jade Emperor of East Mountain. The thousands of years of foundation of East Mountain and the lives of hundreds of millions of people were in her hands. But who knew how much pain her heart was now? King Wu also had a swift and decisive personality. After coming out of the Jade Emperor's study, he immediately rushed to the Ministry of War to meet with the generals. The whole country issued an emergency war order, opened the national treasury, allocated resources, increased the border guards, deployed the defense line, contacted the foreign officials, and cleared the territory of demonic beasts, etc. Within 2 days, the East Mountain had undergone earth-shattering changes. The royal family members rushed to the front lines. A large number of guards marched between the cities. The major cities opened recruitment centers and recruited almost all the cultivators into the army. At the same time, the East Mountain was not the only country that was attacked by demonic beasts. The White Lion country, the 4 countries of the wasteland, the Penglai country, the Yumo country, and the Buzhou country all took action one after another. In the whole 5th heaven, before the heavenly tribulation descended, the whole world was already in war. During these few days of hurrying, Lu Chen suddenly realized that there were many more people around him, and the group was getting bigger and bigger. In the end, there were thousands of people. These people were the Aboriginals. For some reason, a large number of the Aboriginals in the White Lion country were migrating to the East Mountain. Lu Chen was originally walking alone, but suddenly he became one of the Aboriginals. Anyway, he was wearing the lonely shadow fishing attire that was characteristic of the working people. One of his arms was broken, and he was carrying a baby on his back. The strap covered his badge, so no one treated him as an outsider. In front of him, an old man was pushing a wheelbarrow with his belongings. There was also a girl and an old woman on the wheelbarrow. They were hurrying along. The group was moving very fast. It was as if everyone was rushing to the East Mountain. There were a few young people who organized everyone to walk together, but they could not see so many people. The old man's foot slipped, and the wheelbarrow was about to overturn. Lu Chen hurriedly stepped forward and supported the wheelbarrow. The old man glanced at Lu Chen. With such a simple outfit, he looked very amiable. He smiled gratefully and said, "Thank you, big brother. I'm old and my legs are not very nimble." Lu Chen smiled slightly. "Old man, the mountain road is difficult to walk on. I'll help you." After half a day of traveling, the sky was already dark. Someone in front called for everyone to stop and rest. "Everyone stop. We'll spend the night here. We're very close to the border now. Be careful of demonic beasts. Don't sleep too soundly." Lu Chen wondered if he should go alone. At this time, a small hand pulled Lu Chen's clothes. "Big brother, my grandparents want you to come over and eat with us." Lu Chen turned around and saw the old couple who helped him during the day. After thinking for a while, Lu Chen decided to go with them. At least he could sleep well in the middle of the night. As soon as he came over, the old man handed over a hot steamed bun. The little girl's eyes widened and she swallowed her saliva. "Young man, I don't have anything good here. Just eat this," the old man said enthusiastically. Lu Chen smiled and took the steamed bun. He drank it with the spring water. "Old man, what are you going to do?" Lu Chen asked while feeding the little beast god water. Don't you know? The world is going to be in chaos. The East Mountain has issued an order. They will protect the natives." The old man was so excited that tears almost filled his eyes. "The Jade Emperor is wise. No one has ever cared about our life and death." The old man was so excited that he could not speak. Lu Chen frowned. "Jade Emperor? Who is that?" But he seemed to be a good person. Chapter 860. As they chatted, Lu Chen finally understood the current situation. The demonic beast army was already on the move, attacking the borders of various countries. The 7 great nations also responded quickly. The White Lion Nation had issued an emergency order to all the major cities 3 days ago, but they didn't intend to protect the Aborigines. The White Lion Nation's territory was extremely complicated. Most importantly, there was the Demon Eye Valley within their borders, which divided the White Lion Nation into two. Fortunately, the Peacock City's garrison had witnessed Lu Chen kill the eight-eyed evil spirit with their own eyes, and saw the Black Qilin leave the Demon Eye Valley. This was definitely great news for them. The White Lion Nation had given up on some of the smaller cities at the border, while organizing people to surround and exterminate the Demon Eye Valley. As a result, Lu Chen had only met Aborigines in the past few days, and he hadn't seen a single cultivator. Now, Lu Chen finally knew what this group of people was doing. They planned to cross the border and enter the Eastern Peak Nation to seek refuge. To put it bluntly, they were refugees. Lu Chen mixed in with the refugees, and it didn't look out of place at all. He didn't expect so many things to have happened outside while he was using the origin crystal to strengthen his body. Lu Chen couldn't help but frown. Had the demonic beast army made a move? Was the demonic beast king already very powerful? There were still 3 of the 4 heavenly kings of the demonic beasts, and they should be fully recovered once he opened the spirit vein. At that time, would it be time for the demonic beast army to invade? The demonic beast king's speed of growth had indeed far exceeded Lu Chen's expectations. It was only a day's journey from here to the border, and there might be demonic beasts lying in ambush here. Lu Chen decided not to go alone, but to follow these aborigines into the Eastern Peak Nation first. The steamed bread wasn't big, and he finished it in a few bites. The old man didn't hesitate at all, and handed one to Lu Chen. The old woman, however, was a little reluctant, and secretly pulled the old man away. "We still have to eat these rations for a few days," the old man glared at the old lady. "It's not easy to go out. At most, I'll just eat less." After saying that, the old woman still insisted on stuffing the steamed bun into Lu Chen's hands. "Young man, you're both a father and a mother, yet your hands and feet are inconvenient. It's really not easy. By the way, the child hasn't eaten yet, right? I'll go cook some porridge for the child." Lu Chen really wanted to say that children don't drink milk, they eat beast cores and origin crystal fragments. "Elder, there's no need to trouble yourself. He's already eaten." Lu Chen smiled and took out some jerky and rice noodles from his backpack. "Old man, I still have some food here. Anyway, I can't finish it all by myself. You can eat it on the way." "But how can I accept this?" The old man's eyes were full of shock. Most of the aboriginals worked as coolies for the immortal sections. It was normal for them to be hungry and full. It was rare for them to get their hands on some fish, but they could not bear to eat it themselves. They would sell it to the inns for some money. In the end, this young man took out a big bag of ingredients in one go. When the little girl saw so much food, she was stunned. Was this the life of a rich person? Lu Chen carried the little beast deity on his back and put the things on the old man's cart. He patted the little girl's head and said with a smile, "Are you hungry?" The little girl nodded. Lu Chen took out some snacks and toys and put them in the little girl's hands. These things were not worth mentioning in Lu Chen's eyes, but to these aboriginals, they were already unimaginable riches. At night, the whole family was already asleep. Lu Chen was not sleepy and leaned against a nearby tree. The probing attacks of the magical beast army had already forced these aboriginals to migrate. Their lives were too pitiful. Is it about to start? Lu Chen's brows were tightly knitted. The origin god's voice suddenly rang out. "Do you feel like you're not ready yet?" Lu Chen nodded. "I don't know if they'll wait for me to open the other 3 spirit veins. But even if I open them all, I don't know how strong I'll be, or if I'll be able to fight against the supreme magical beast." "Are you trying to delay the opening of the spirit veins?" "Actually, I don't think the magical beasts will wait for you for too long. They're already itching to try." Lu Chen nodded. "I know. They might not need to wait for the 4 heavenly kings to fully recover their strength. I'm afraid I don't have much time left." Lu Chen had experienced the war between the countries and the war between the 10,000 races, but none of them were as real as this one. The vastness of the 5th heaven made Lu Chen feel how small he was. And strictly speaking, this was no longer a game. The war here was a real life and death battle. "Origin God, is Luo Yao all right?" Lu Chen suddenly asked. "She's fine. Don't you want to know her identity? She should be the royal family of the Dongyue nation, Lu Chen said. Indeed. Lu Chen nodded. This could be guessed from Luo Yao's strength. She might be a princess or something like that. She was mischievous and ran into him. Now that the Dongyue nation was in trouble, she had to rush back. Do you know she's in danger? Not at the moment. She's still in the Dongyue imperial city. Lu Chen frowned slightly. After thinking for a long time, he said, the Dongyue nation should be referring to the invasion of the magical beasts. Since she's fine, I don't need to look for her. You really don't want to see her? Maybe some things will be out of your expectations. Lu Chen shook his head. I already know what I want to know. Now I have more important things to do. The magical beast army won't wait for me to open the spirit meridians. I plan to open 2 spirit meridians first and seize the time to see if there are other ways to become stronger. The sudden situation made Lu Chen nervous. He couldn't be as carefree as before. Send these natives to the Dongyue nation. Then I'll go directly to the 4 nations of the Great Wilderness. When the Origin God heard Lu Chen's plan, he didn't say anything else. Lu Chen was right. The matter of the magical beast army was more important than meeting Luo Yao. The next morning, someone woke everyone up. The refugees continued their journey to the west. In the afternoon, they arrived at the border between the Dongyue nation and the Baisher nation. When Lu Chen first came to the Baisher nation, he didn't encounter any obstructions. But this time, a large number of guards appeared in the direction of the Dongyue nation. They sealed off the road and guarded it tightly. A few natives were negotiating with the guards, but it seemed that they didn't intend to let them pass. Everyone was anxiously waiting for the result. Lu Chen squeezed to the front. Immortal, I beg you, let us pass. A middle-aged native begged. If there's really a war, we can help you build fortifications and plant food. We walked for more than 10 days to get here. Now, the outer cities of the Baisher nation have no guards. If you let us go back now, we'll definitely die if we encounter the magical beasts. The general of the guards shouted. What does your life or death have to do with us? Get out of my way. If you want to die, die in your Baisher nation. Immortal, the Jade Emperor ordered us to protect the natives. This shows that the Dongyue nation is benevolent. I beg you to let us in. The guard suddenly drew his weapon and said sternly, if not for the Jade Emperor's order, I would have killed all of you. A bunch of trash. If these natives return now, they would be courting death. All of them stood rooted to the ground, their expressions dim. You're still not leaving? You're the ones who trespassed the border. Don't blame me. Shoot them all, don't leave a single one alive. Chapter 861. Sir, the Jade Emperor has given orders. The deputy behind him reminded him softly. What orders? The mountain is high and the Emperor is far away. Besides, King Wen is the second uncle of my uncle's cousin's cousin. Even if he knows, nothing will happen to me. The general ignored the dissuasion and the pleas of the Aborigines. He had already raised one hand. The surrounding archers quickly drew their bows and knocked their arrows. They were ready to kill the thousands of refugees at any moment. When the natives saw this, they had already retreated even further. Want to run? I told you to scram just now, but you didn't. Now it's too late. The general smiled cruelly. I haven't met a single beast since I came to the border. I'll use you guys as practice. At this moment, a person walked out slowly from the group of Aborigines. This person was wearing gray and white clothes made of coarse cloth. If one wasn't familiar with fishing, very few people would recognize that it was a fashionable dress. He only had one arm and was carrying a baby on his back. It's that uncle. A little girl's eyes were filled with surprise. Grandpa. The old man frowned, his eyes filled with anxiety and sorrow. What is that young man doing? Really, they won't show any mercy. Suddenly, Lu Chen used 9 void steps and appeared in front of the general in an instant. The general's eyes widened. This guy was an aboriginal cultivator. But how could he dare to charge into the defensive position? You're courting death. Lu Chen snorted. Celestial demon symbiosis. In an instant, Lu Chen's body exploded with spirit energy, stunning all the guards. Wait, celestial demon symbiosis? Is this the #1 forbidden book in Jiutian, the 9 transformations of celestial demons? Celestial demon symbiosis was not a simple 9 transformations of celestial demons, but an exclusive skill. Only the 9 transformations of celestial demons could not be used. These people were not weak. It was not difficult to hear of the 9 transformations of celestial demons, but no one could recognize celestial demon symbiosis. Lu Chen's black hair instantly turned white, and his killing intent soared. The little girl widened her eyes and looked at Lu Chen in disbelief. Is that Big Brother? Grandpa, Big Brother is an aboriginal cultivator. Many natives also stopped and looked at Lu Chen in shock. It's actually a native cultivator. The immortal cultivators of the indigenous people are figures that only exist in legends. They are also the hope of our indigenous people. But can he hold off so many guards by himself? Lu Chen looked at the guard general and said coldly, Your Jade Emperor made it sound nice to protect the aboriginals, but in the end, it was just for show. Since he can't control his subordinates, I'll help him. Very well, you dare to make a move? The guards shouted angrily. To be able to become a guard, he was not weak. 7-star Earth cultivation was not ranked high in the royal city, but in this remote border, he could do whatever he wanted. Soul and body as one. 9 directions domain. This guy was also from Hunking City. His skills weren't weak, especially his domain. The 9 harmony skill could be considered a top-notch domain. Lu Chen coldly snorted, Primal Chaos Element Conversion. Triple Gate. I'm all ears. That person was still hoping that the 9 directions domain would restrict Lu Chen, but who knew that it was useless? His body was directly dragged to the front by Lu Chen. Lu Chen's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He didn't have the slightest bit of pity for this person who casually ordered the massacre of the people. Tiger descends the mountain. Weapon upgrade. Spatial spiritual cannon. The spiritual cannon phantom transformed into 3 gun barrels, and each gun barrel shot out 5 spiritual cannon shots at the same time. Lu Chen had upgraded his spiritual power before. Now that he was a 2-star great cultivator, his spiritual power was more than twice as high as before. Therefore, the damage of his spiritual cannon was even more terrifying now. Moreover, in a fit of rage, he directly used 15 consecutive shots. 15 shots of the spiritual cannon directly blasted that person's face. With one shot, that person's head exploded, and red and white matter flew everywhere. However, one shot was still unable to appease Lu Chen's anger. 15 shots had directly blasted that person to the point where not even a speck of dust remained. Seeing this scene, the surrounding guards and thousands of aboriginals seemed to be petrified and froze on the spot. What kind of damage is this? His main body can kill a soul-body fusion expert so easily? The general is also a 7-star Earth cultivator. Oh my god, this guy. Is he a human or a ghost? Lu Chen looked at the guards indifferently and said coldly, Your general is dead. Who's in charge now? The deputy general who spoke up for the general trembled and came to his senses. Trembling, he stood up and said, You dare to kill the general of Dongyue. Lu Chen didn't think much of it and said indifferently, What? Do you want to avenge him, or do you want to tell his uncle's cousin's second uncle? Tell him that I killed his, that relative? With this question, that person was stunned. Lu Chen continued, Your king has already given the order. I don't care what his purpose is, but as the king of a country, since he has given the order, you should execute it. They are also aboriginals. Although they are from Baishur, it is up to you to decide whether to protect them or not. Now let me ask you, will you let them pass or not? The guard's forehead was covered in sweat. Just now, this guy's strength had already intimidated him. Now that he was explaining things, he was left with no choice. I will naturally let them pass. But you killed the general of Dongyue. This matter, do you dare to tell me your name? Lu Chen smiled indifferently. This guy still had some brains. Just like in a fight, the iron-headed ones would directly rush in. Only those who couldn't win but wanted to save face would shout, "Don't leave after school." Solipsistic. Lu Chen said indifferently and turned to walk towards the aboriginals. He walked in front of the old couple and the little girl. The killing intent on his face had already dissipated. Instead, he smiled and said, "I'm leaving now. You two take care of yourselves. And you, Braid, take good care of your grandparents." "Big brother, you can't enter Dongyue because of everyone?" the little girl asked. Lu Chen smiled and shook his head. "No, I have more important things to do. I can't delay any longer. If you are bullied in Dongyue, go find a big sister called Luo Yao and tell her that you are my friends. She should protect you." Lu Chen stuffed a handful of spirit stones into the old couple's hands. With that, Lu Chen turned and said coldly to the guards, "Remember, your enemy is not these civilians, but the demonic beasts. Shooting these defenseless people is a disgrace to all of you. If there is a next time, I, Solipsistic, will find you and kill you all. Let them pass." The guards were terrified. This person's strength was one thing, but the key was his aura. It was as majestic as a king, making people unable to resist. After watching the guards open the gate and let the aboriginals pass, Lu Chen withdrew his gaze. 9 wings. The 9-winged celestial dragon appeared and roared into the sky. Lu Chen spread his wings and jumped directly onto the 9-winged celestial dragon. Standing on the dragon's head, Lu Chen said indifferently, "Let's go to the 4 countries of the Grand Wilderness." Chapter 862. The war seemed to have begun. Lu Chen knew that he didn't have much time left, so he activated Soul Body as one, summoned 9 wings, and soared into the sky. A giant dragon soared into the sky and disappeared from everyone's sight. The deputy general watched the figure disappear into the distance. When he came back to his senses, he realized that he was drenched in sweat. Solipsistic. Not activating Soul Body as one when killing people, but activating it when rushing? How arrogant is this guy? He muttered this name repeatedly. Perhaps he would remember this name for a long time in the future. No, the great general has been killed. This matter must be reported to the higher-ups. A few days later, in the East Peak Palace of the East Peak Imperial City, Luo Yao was receiving 5 sect representatives from the East Peak. The Jade Empress is wise. We have long heard of the prophecies of the oracles. This time, the magical beasts are invading the borders in an organized manner. It could be a calamity foretold by the prophecies. We must not let down our guard. Yes, we have already organized the various sects and assigned all of their disciples to the various garrison forces. To be able to be selected as sect representatives, these people had extraordinary foresight. They were all fully cooperating with Luo Yao's emergency order. Luo Yao stood up and nodded slightly to the elders. Currently, the magical beast army is only testing the waters. I suspect that they want to see the current strength of the various countries. Secondly, they want to see what strategies the various countries will adopt. Currently, the 7 countries are discussing the alliance, but they need to wait for the 7 ancient gods to recover their battle strength. However, among the 7 ancient gods, only our East Peak Ice God has not been reborn. I don't think he will be reborn. The 7 ancient gods' battle strength is shocking. They will definitely become the strongest force against the magical beast army. Moreover, their strongest technique, the 7 ultimate heavenly fate formation, requires all 7 of them to activate at the same time. But now, Luo Yao knew about Shui, and naturally knew that the ice god would not come. But without the ice god, the 7 ultimate heavenly fate formation cannot be activated. The 7 ancient gods' battle strength is greatly reduced. A black-robed elder with a ghost mask and a staff in his hand spoke. He had a hunched back and looked very old. At this moment, he took a step forward and said, "The ghost master of the netherworld has prophesied that the East Peak Ice God will change hands." However, he also provided a solution. What did the ghost master say? The white-robed man. The old gods have fallen, and the new gods have arrived. The black-clothed old man said, Everyone felt quite confused and Luo Yao asked, "Senior Nether, who is this new god? Can you tell me more?" The Netherworld Ghost Master said, "Since the ice god has fallen, a new god will definitely descend. I've seen this person before. His name is Luochin. Falling dust? I know that too." Another dignified woman said, "A few months ago, he came to visit my divine splendor palace. At that time, I even tested his strength. He seemed to have received someone's inheritance. He was in his 20s, but his strength made me concede defeat. That's right, he came looking for me as well. His strength is indeed terrifying." You all know him? Coincidentally, I know him too. 6 months ago, he came to visit my startling feather sect and asked me to recommend him to become the new ice god. He has the skills of a martial monk and a prophet. He has already predicted today's situation. The nameless East Mountain sects Mount Tai and Big Dipper actually all recognized falling dust. Luo Yao was somewhat astonished. Who exactly was this falling dust? She had never heard of his name before. Naturally, Luo Yao did not know falling dust. Ruochen was also an expert in the sacred mountain. After meeting the living Buddha, he had a fortuitous encounter and soared to the heavens. Luo Yao had been famous since a long time ago. Recently, she had accompanied Lu Chen to Baisher country. It was normal for her not to know this person. Although the 5 seniors have recommended this person, this matter is of great importance. To become the new ice god, he still needs to obtain the approval of the 6 ancient gods. Only with their approval will he be given the 7-terminal destiny formation. That's natural. Brother Falling Dust, since the Jade Empress wants to see you, you should come out. At this moment, the Netherworld Ghost Master turned around and said to the people behind him. Almost at the same time, the main door of the main hall slowly opened. A young man strode in. "I am Falling Dust. Greetings, Jade Empress." Luo Yao immediately saw the badge on his chest. 1-star Emperor Xiao. Theo the Great. Luo Yao's eyes widened. With this level, if the 7 ancient gods did not appear, no one in the level 5 heaven could compare to him. Coincidentally, when the door opened, a soldier rushed in to report the situation. "Jade Empress, a member of the imperial family has died in battle." Everyone present turned to look at the soldier in surprise. "What? Luo Yao asked. "A descendant of the Fong family. He was killed east of the snowy mountains at the border with Baisher country." "What? He wasn't killed by demonic beasts?" "No," the soldier said. The soldier said, "Because of the strangeness of this matter, King Wu ordered this subordinate to report it to the Jade Emperor. When General Fang Dongxue was stationed at the border of the White Lion Nation, he encountered the natives of the White Lion Nation seeking refuge. When he gave the order to kill those natives, a native cultivator killed him in front of an army of 100,000. When everyone heard this, they could not help but frown. The ranks of the imperial family members were all very high. The lowest rank was at least Earth Cultivation Level 5 and above. Furthermore, there were so many guards at that time. A native cultivator was at most an Earth Cultivation level. How could he kill the enemy general in front of an army of 10,000 soldiers? Luo Yao's brows were even more tightly knitted. Just the demonic beast army was enough for her to worry about. Why was this happening now? You said that person was a native cultivator? Is there a mistake in the information? The Xinhua sect leader asked. These people were also consecrators in the imperial court, and were equivalent to having a position. The soldier replied, reporting to consecrator Xinhua. At that time, everyone saw him walking out from among the indigenous refugees. There shouldn't be any mistake. This? How could a native have such terrifying power? Could it be that the origin god was reborn? The Netherworld Ghost Master said in shock. If the 7 ancient gods were reborn, then wouldn't the origin god be reborn as well? In terms of power, the origin god killed the supreme demonic beast. His power was above that of the 7 ancient gods. No, he left his name, the soldier replied. What's his name? Everyone wanted to beat this soldier to death. If he didn't ask, he wouldn't say. he said his name is solipsistic. He has a broken arm and is carrying a child on his back. When they heard this name, the two people present were stunned. One of them was naturally Luo Yao. When she heard solipsistic, all the doubts in her heart disappeared. One-armed, stay-at-home dad. Without a doubt, there was no other person. It was that guy. Only that guy would fight for the natives. He did not die. The other person was Luo Qin. Luo Qin had received the living Buddha's inheritance. After that, under the living Buddha's guidance, he had obtained a great opportunity and his power had increased tremendously. He had reached the level of a one-star great emperor's tutor. Back then, between Lu Chen and Luo Qin, the living Buddha had chosen Luo Qin. The reason he had given was that Lu Qin did not have long to live and could not take on great responsibilities. Who would have thought that this guy was still alive? Chapter 863. With the war imminent, Luo Yao couldn't find Lu Qin. She still had to bring Luo Qin to meet the 7 primordial gods. Lu Qin was in the East Peak Nation and even passed by the royal city, but he couldn't find Luo Yao. Instead, he headed straight for the 4 nations of the Grand Wilderness. A few days before arriving at the western border of the East Peak Nation, Lu Qin only used the Tai Shuo as a means of transportation to accumulate time for soul-body fusion. To cross the border, he had to go through 2 checks. One was by the East Peak Nation's garrison, and the other was by the Rhubarb East Pole Nation's garrison. There were many people crossing the border between the 2 nations. Almost all of them were natives heading from the East Pole Nation to the East Peak Nation. As for the reason, Lu Qin could roughly guess. You want to leave the border? The garrison looked at Lu Qin in surprise. Lu Qin was blocking his badge. Based on his appearance, this guy was a native. Only the natives are trying their best to come to the East Peak Nation. I haven't seen anyone leaving yet. Lu Qin shook his head and made up a reason. My wife is over there. I want to find her. With that said, Lu Qin secretly pinched the little beast god. The little guy immediately cried out. Looking at the child, the guard also felt that Lu Qin's reason shouldn't be false. Okay, you can go. But let me tell you, starting tomorrow, the Dongyue country will not be able to accept any more indigenous people. We will not accept any more indigenous people in the future. Lu Qin nodded. Thank you, big brother. With that said, he hurriedly left the East Peak Nation's border. They had to cross a mountain in front of them to reach the border of the East Pole Nation. On the mountain, Lu Qin saw a large number of natives. They had brought all their belongings with them. Families of all ages were camping here, waiting to enter the East Pole Nation. There are so many people. I reckon most people won't be able to enter the East Peak Nation in time. Lu Qin sighed and shook his head. Lu Qin finally reached the border of the East Pole Nation, one of the 4 nations of the Grand Wilderness. Compared to the East Peak Nation, there were only people leaving and not entering. Perhaps it was because the Aboriginals knew that the East Peak Nation was accepting refugees on the last day, so they began to flock to the East Peak Nation. Kid, be careful. The 4 countries of the Great Wilderness only accept humans who are Earth Cultivation Realm and above, the Origin God whispered to Lu Qin. Lu Qin looked in the direction of the garrison from afar. It was heavily guarded. Lu Qin's level was clearly not high enough. Could it be that he had to force his way through? Lu Qin was worried that if the garrison was attacked, it would delay the natives from entering the Dongyue Nation. If that happened, their last hope would be dashed. After pondering for a while, Lu Qin turned around and blended into the refugees. He saw a woman pushing a wheelbarrow. On the wheelbarrow were some leftover belongings, a big box, and 2 children. They were hurrying up the mountain in front of them, hoping to catch up with the last batch of people to enter the Dongyue country. Lu Qin hurriedly followed her. Big sister, sell me this wheelbarrow. The woman looked at Lu Qin in surprise and said awkwardly, These are all things that I need daily. When we reach the East Peak Nation, we will also be aboriginals. Without these things, we can't survive. Lu Qin took out 100 spirit stones and stuffed them into the woman's hands. Big sister, this money is enough for you to build a house and buy your belongings. Now, you just need to take care of the children and some dry food. Leave the rest for me. This way, you can leave faster. The woman looked at the spirit stones in Lu Chen's hands in shock. 100 spirit stones was enough for their family to live for a long time, let alone buy these things. Thank you, benefactor. Hohat, Ergu, follow mother. The woman moved quickly, carrying a bag of dry food and dragging the 2 children away. Before she left, she thanked Lu Chen profusely. Lu Chen smiled and watched them enter the mountain. Then, he placed the little beast god on the wheelbarrow and summoned Rhubarb and Furball to sit on the wheelbarrow. He pushed the wheelbarrow with one hand and walked toward the East Pole Nation. Stop, what are you doing? The guards quickly stopped Lu Chen. The East Pole Nation was different. The guards of the East Peak Nation were all humans, but the East Pole Nation had a mix of races. The humans, the Heavenly Fiend clan, and even the Demon clan and the Dragon Human clan. They were all very strong, with the lowest cultivation level. Lu Chen looked impatient. There are too many people there. What's so good about the East Peak Nation? I won't go. I want to go back. The guards looked at each other. This guy left the East Pole Nation to seek refuge in the East Peak Nation? It seemed like he had returned after realizing that he had no chance of entering the East Peak Nation. The 4 nations of the Grand Wilderness had very high requirements for immortal cultivators, but every place had natives. After all, immortal cultivators needed to eat, drink, and defecate. They needed these people to farm. He was just a native, and one that came from the East Pole Nation. These people had no interest in wasting time on him, so they let him pass. Lu Chen was secretly delighted. Hee, I'm really smart. He came in so effortlessly. Lu Chen only had one hand, so he did not dare use his spirit energy. The wheelbarrow was a little difficult to control, so it quickly disappeared from the guard's line of sight. Finally, he reached a place where there was no one. Lu Chen put the wheelbarrow and his belongings into his backpack. This thing is quite useful. Who knows, I might be able to use it next time. The 4 nations of the Grand Wilderness were divided into 4. Chu Tianshan was located at the intersection of the 4 nations. Lu Chen headed west and headed straight for Chu Tianshan. After entering the East Pole Nation for a few days, Lu Chen could clearly sense the tense atmosphere around him. Large numbers of natives had been captured to dig canals, build walls, and set up fortifications. Many of the surrounding natives had been forced to hand over large amounts of resources in advance because the cities had already begun stockpiling resources. Lu Chen finally knew why the people he saw at the borders were mostly women and children. The able-bodied ones had been captured for hard labor. The war had yet to begin, but the natives here were already living in dire straits. Unfortunately, Lu Chen was helpless at the moment. Over the past few days, Lu Chen had also heard that the war god of the 4 nations of the Grand Wilderness had been reborn. It was said that when the war god of the Grand Wilderness was reborn, 1,000 natives with his blood were stared at on stone pillars. They endured the erosion of the wind for 3 days and 3 nights, evaporating and refining their blood before flowing back into the war god's body. Only then did he awaken. Lu Chen could not help but think of Shui and Atai. If he had not stopped them, Shui would have likely died. As for Atai's wife, she probably would not have survived. Late at night, Lu Chen sat by the lake and took out the Origins God token. Origins God, why didn't you reincarnate? The token lit up slightly. Reincarnate? Back then, I used the self-destruction of my spirit core to severely injure Sovereign Fiend Beast. If not for the fact that I knew my soul would dissipate and that the natives' lives would not improve, I would have refined 100 Origins God tokens ahead of time. Nothing of mine would be left in this world. Lu Chen shook his head. Some people believed that the Origins God had killed Sovereign Fiend Beast, but in fact, the Origins God's self-destruction of his spirit core had only severely injured Sovereign Fiend Beast. Furthermore, Sovereign Fiend Beast had been recuperating in the Heavenly Lake before encountering an itinerant immortal who had come down to unblock the spirit meridians. In the end, it was only a draw. How strong was an adult Sovereign Fiend Beast? Besides, the Origins God's voice sounded again. Death is death. Even if I did not self-destruct my spirit core, I would not have chosen to reincarnate. I would not use the flesh and blood of my clansmen as a tool for my reincarnation. Lu Chen nodded. Such a origins god really made him admire him even more. Chapter 864. On this journey, Lu Chen traveled as a native. At times, he lacked the stamina to walk and would encounter the East Pole Nation soldiers who had captured able-bodied men. However, these soldiers did not seem interested in him and allowed him to leave. With only one arm, he could not even grab a hoe. He was of no help at all and even had an additional mouth to feed. No, there were two mouths. That fellow was carrying one on his back. Lu Chen immediately found his niche. He was a native nanny who wandered the world with a baby. Sigh, it's too tragic. Lu Chen continued traveling as though he had nothing to live for. The little beast deity would eat an origin crystal fragment every day, as well as some beast cores as snacks. The rocks were crunched in his mouth, and the only thing that was similar to other babies was his milk bottle. Only when the little beast deity was drinking from his milk bottle could Lu Chen treat him like a normal baby. It had been more than half a month since they left White Lion Nation. The little beast deity could already walk on his own. However, in order to continue acting as a nanny, Lu Chen forcefully pressed him into his back. Speaking of which, Lu Chen and company often slept in the wilderness along the way, but they did not encounter any other demonic beasts. The little beast deity could only play with furball and rhubarb. In the past half a month, it was said that East Pole Nation had been attacked more than 10 times. Now that the borders were unstable, prophecies of the heavenly tribulation were everywhere. The various garrison troops were deployed daily, leaving everyone in a state of panic. However, there was a benefit to this. Lu Chen did not encounter any obstructions as he passed through East Pole Nation and entered the Chu Tianshan mountain range. Standing on a tall mountain, Lu Chen looked into the distance. There was a towering mountain in the distance that stood out among the other mountains. It reached straight for the clouds. That's Chu Tianshan? That's right. The origin god had conjured an avatar and stood beside Lu Chen. Lu Chen glanced sideways at the middle-aged man who looked about his age. He had average looks, a medium build, and a stubble. He said with a frown, "You have recovered your spiritual powers? You can even conjure an avatar. Didn't you say that this would consume a lot of spiritual energy?" The origin god thought nothing of it. This is Chu Tianshan. Even if the spirit meridians haven't been completely activated, the spirit chi here is a lot more abundant than other places. The origin god can maintain this form around here. I see that you're quite lonely, so I'll accompany you to the end of this journey. I don't feel lonely. Origin god was a little embarrassed. Along the way, he could see that Solipsistic was really a straight guy. I really don't understand. You're such an idiot. What does Kong Luo Yao see in you? She likes me? That's impossible. Are you an idiot? If she didn't like you, would she have waited for you for 7 days and 7 nights above the abyss? Also, wasn't she the one who took care of you before? With her status, she has been taking care of you all this time. Isn't that because she likes you? You're thinking too much. I think our relationship should be that of a pure comrade in arms. Lu Chen walked towards Chu Tianshan as he said, "Trust me, when a woman is nice to you, it doesn't necessarily mean that she likes you. She might just be pitying you." The origin god shook his head in anger. I really want to kick him. You have a negative EQ and you actually want to teach me. Forget it. I can't reason with someone like you. Lu Chen said indignantly, if you're so powerful, did you have a wife back then? As the strongest of the natives, you should have countless admirers. The origin god was taken aback as well. Over the past few thousand years, countless people had obtained the origin god token. Every one of them carefully guarded the origin god token. They also treated the origin god with reverence. Yet this fellow actually asked him if he had a wife. You don't understand. I don't have the time to talk about relationships. Lu Chen immediately laughed out loud. Haha, you dare criticize me? You're worse than me. The origin god finally decided not to discuss these issues with Lu Chen. Otherwise, he would really be angered to death by this fellow. Lone tyrant, how did you get your beast god? Origin god suddenly asked. So he is the beast god. I have only heard of his existence in ancient legends, but I have only heard of his name, origin god suddenly said. Lu Chen roughly explained the synthesis process. Actually, all you need to do is gather 18 top-level battle pets and the Beast God Synthesis Stone to synthesize. There's no technical skill involved. The Origin God did not reply for a long time. After a while, the Origin God said, I seem to have heard some immortal cultivators say that a level 4 boss is unkillable. Its star annihilation can destroy heaven and earth. No battle soul can withstand it. You killed a level 4 boss? It's not unkillable. As long as you stay in the star annihilation for 10 minutes, you'll discover that the star annihilation is not the extreme E nether glow skill. Instead, it's the extreme yang illumination hiding underground. Once you discover the extreme yang illumination, things will be easier, Lu Chen said as he pushed aside the branches in front of him. Staying in the star annihilation for 10 minutes. How did you survive? Spirit Chi refinement. It was rare to meet a top-level expert. Lu Chen finally had a chance to tell the truth. By the way, Origin God, do you have Spirit Chi refinement at level 5? After I reached level 5, the effects of Spirit Chi refinement were greatly reduced. I can't resist other people's skills. Lu Chen voiced his doubts. You mean Spirit Chi refinement? The Origin God was a little embarrassed. As a man who was called God, being asked such a question was a little awkward. But I have a similar state, the Origin God said. Origin God said, those things are considered realm-type skills. For example, the sword mind and sword heart of the sword are all states. One's mental state is also a profound skill. To improve such skills, one has to rely on luck and comprehension. What do you know? The Origin God smiled slightly. He finally talked about his area of expertise. I feel the same. Feel the same? What kind of state is that? Lu Chen asked. Putting yourself in the opponent's shoes, as if you are the enemy in front of you. Then, you can simulate the opponent's possible prediction and change your attack according to the prediction. When I activate the state of feeling the same, it is rare to meet a worthy opponent. The Origin God said proudly. In the battle with Devil Beast Sovereign, it was because of the same feeling that I had the ability to fight with him. Lu Chen frowned slightly. By the way, Devil Beast Sovereign has a move that should shatter the opponent's internal organs. How do you deal with it? Speaking of Devil Beast Sovereign, the Origin God couldn't help but frown. It was as if that unprecedented battle was still in front of him. You should be talking about Devil Beast Sovereign's state, resonance. Resonance? It should be. He can shatter a person's internal organs and even spirit stones. Is it also a state of controlling spirit chi? The Origin God frowned and stood in place. Lu Chen stopped and looked at the Origin God strangely. Do you know how I deal with resonance? Lu Chen shook his head. The Origin God's eyes were filled with mixed emotions. Finally, he said, I couldn't completely block it. Lu Chen was taken aback. Couldn't completely block it? That meant that the Origin God's internal organs had been destroyed? Was it because of this that the Origin God had no choice but to self-destruct his spirit core? Either you can figure out a stronger state than him, or you can only rely on your physical strength to withstand it. There's no other way. With that said, the Origin God finally took a step forward and continued heading for Chu Tianshan. Chapter 865. Chu Tianshan, which was often visited by demonic beasts, had not encountered a single one. It's possible that the 4 heavenly kings guarding this place have already left, said the Origin God. Lu Chen did not react. The 4 heavenly kings had no intention of stopping him from reactivating the spirit vein. He actually wished that one of the 4 heavenly kings was here. That way, he would have a chance of defeating them one by one, preventing him from having to face the 4 heavenly kings or even the 7 generals. 8 Eyes and 8 Tails were dead, but there was no guarantee that they could find replacements. In my era, the entire Chu Tianshan mountain range was filled with people cultivating. But now, there's not a single immortal cultivator to be seen. Lu Chen said, usually, there should be sects nearby. Now that we're at the 5th firmament, it's already very rare to have such rich spiritual energies. There must be sects occupying the nearby mountain range. However, with the current war, they have probably been recruited to prepare for war. That's good too. It saves us the trouble. With that said, Lu Chen summoned Rhubarb. Rhubarb, lead the way. Let's hurry. After walking for a day, Lu Chen and company were still halfway up the mountain. They only reached the peak of Chu Tianshan on the evening of the second day. Looking down the mountain, it was already filled with white clouds. The surrounding mountain range appeared especially short beneath their feet. Clouds lingered around them, making them feel like they were in an immortal realm. Chu Tianshan's peak was not steep. On the contrary, the peak seemed to have been flattened. There was a relatively flat region. Just as Lu Chen stepped onto the flat land, he realized that there was an array talisman beneath his feet that emitted a sliver of spiritual energy. There's no 4 heavenly kings, but there's an array formation. Following the array formation, there was a gigantic meteorite floating in the middle of the array. The meteorite's exterior was abnormally cratered. Its surface was filled with potholes and tiny holes. When the mountain wind blew, it emitted a howling sound from the tiny holes. It's an extraterrestrial meteorite? Lu Chen said in surprise. That's right. It's indeed a meteorite. In the past, we called it Heavenly Star. It fell from outer space many years ago and later became one of the 5 spirit veins of the Qin planet. The Heavenly Star spirit vein's spiritual energy radiates throughout the 4 countries of the Great Wilderness, and more than half of the Western Kingdom. Lu Chen nodded. At this time, besides the fact that this heavenly star was floating in the air, there was nothing special about it. Origin God, can you break this ceiling formation? Yes. But I'm just a phantom now, and I didn't set up this array formation, so I can't help you break it. Origin God said decisively, this array is called the Buddha Purgatory Spirit Lock Array. When breaking the array, not only do you need sufficient spiritual qi, you also need to break through the 1024 array cores in order. With your spiritual power and physical strength, I estimate that you can only open 64 formation eyes in one day, and it will take you about 16 days to break the formation. 1024 array cores, it would take 16 days to break the array. This is already considered very little. Do you think a formation that can seal this kind of spiritual source would be simple? Lu Chen shook his head. He was in a hurry to begin with. Now, it would take him half a month just to break the array. Remember to be impatient when breaking the formation. Don't use your spirit energy storm. Consume all your spirit pills and then cultivate here to replenish them. Don't take any spirit pills with impure auras. If you do this repeatedly, I'm guessing it will be beneficial for your spirit energy. Really? I'm guessing. I don't know how to use spirit energy. Hiss. Lu Chen rolled his eyes at Origin God. This guy really spoke the truth. Fortunately, with Origin God's help, Lu Chen didn't need to think about how to break the array. He only needed to open the array cores one by one. Since he knew the method, Lu Chen began to cultivate. Rhubarb, Hairy Ball, and the little beast god brought Lu Yi to the surroundings to gather herbs while Lu Chen focused on breaking the array. Chaos Spiritual Pills. Lu Chen directly used the Chaos Spiritual Pills to provide Chaos Spiritual Qi. After all, this was his most basic source of spiritual qi, and it was the same as all other types of spiritual qi. Comprehending Chaos Spiritual Qi was the most basic comprehension. The first array core, North Heaven's Qian position. Sit here and slowly inject spiritual qi. Remember, more haste, less speed. The spiritual qi needs to be injected evenly. Once the spiritual qi is injected too fiercely, it will cause a backlash from the photopurgatory and force you into the photopurgatory's illusory realm. At that time, the illusory realm will be linked and it will be difficult for you to escape. Remember, Origin God said. Lu Chen activated the celestial demon symbiosis and started to inject spiritual qi into the runes. At the same time, he activated the spirit energy refinement and entered the selfless state. At this moment, Lu Chen couldn't feel his body. It was as if his body had become transparent. Only a black bead was rotating slowly. Black spiritual qi constantly escaped from the bead and flowed through his meridians into the runes below him. Ever since he mastered the spirit energy refinement and the selfless state, this was the first time Lu Chen looked inside his body. This time, he seemed to be able to feel the flow of spiritual qi more clearly. It was like a mountain stream flowing slowly. The water was neither fast nor slow, and it flowed endlessly. More than 10 minutes later, the runes of the first array core lit up. Following that, Lu Chen turned to the second array core, the south heavenscan position. The third array core, the west heavensly position. The fourth array core, the little north heavens DUI position. The foot of purgatory spirit sealing array had 132 large and small heavens. There were 8 array cores each. When cracking the array, the order was completely out of the ordinary. He didn't crack them one by one. Instead, he jumped around randomly. Lu Chen was alarmed. If not for the origin god, it was unknown how long it would have taken him to crack the array. When he reached the fourth array core, a gentle voice sounded. Solipsistic, remember to exhaust all your spiritual qi. Don't leave any behind. More than 10 minutes later, Lu Chen's spiritual qi in his spirit core was depleted. Don't shift. Take this opportunity to cultivate and recover your spirit core, continued the origin god. Lu Chen quickly activated the celestial demon chaos essence cultivation technique. Any cultivation technique had the ability to replenish spiritual qi. As a top-notch cultivation technique, the celestial demon chaos essence cultivation technique was no exception. However, if it wasn't used to increase one's spiritual strength, the celestial demon chaos essence cultivation technique could be used to replenish spiritual qi at an astonishing speed. What kind of cultivation technique are you using? The origin god's voice sounded again. It's too fast. You can't sense the spiritual qi in detail like this. Slow down. Lu Chen frowned slightly. Cultivating too fast? There was someone who found the spiritual qi replenishment too fast? Lu Chen switched to the original demonic beast breathing technique. There shouldn't be anything slower than this. You are too slow. What kind of lousy cultivation technique is this? This time, you must have missed the process of sensing from nothing to something. Next time, remember when your spiritual core dries up, use this mental cultivation method to sense the process of spiritual energy generation in your spiritual core. Cultivate for a few minutes and exchange it for your advanced mental cultivation method. I really have to hand it to you. You are either so fast or so slow. Don't you have a mid-grade cultivation technique? Lu Chen really wanted to beat the origin god up. He was the one who said it was fast, but he was also the one who said it was slow. How could one have a cultivation technique just because they wanted it? Forget it. That guy was just a virtual image. He couldn't hit him. He could only endure it. He had to hurry up and crack the array. Chapter 866. A few days ago, Lu Chen could only open 50 array cores a day. His energy could no longer keep up. Later, under the guidance of the origin god, Lu Chen slowed down the rate of spiritual energy infusion. Although the speed of opening array cores slowed down, the number of cores he could open each day began to increase. 55, 60, 65, 70. His energy even allowed him to open more array cores. However, in order to continue opening array cores, he had to rest on time. After 15 days, Lu Chen had already opened the last few array cores. At this time, he could faintly see the shadow of a giant beast in the array. That thing is... Lu Chen stopped and looked at the giant beast in shock. It's actually him? The face of a human and the body of a dragon. Its dragon hair danced in the wind, and it held a giant candle in its mouth. Torch dragon. This time, Lu Chen actually felt that this fellow's status seemed to be lower. Torch dragon, holding a candle can illuminate the land of 9 Een. The origin god said. This fellow is the strongest among the 4 heavenly kings of the demonic beasts. If you meet him in the future, be careful of his candle. How can he be below the winged dragon? Lu Chen asked. The origin god replied, even humans have differences in strength. It's the same between divine beasts. What's more, the demonic beast sovereign is not a simple winged dragon. Its strength is truly terrifying. Lu Chen nodded. So that's how it is. Stop looking. Since you have decided to open all the spirit veins, don't worry about the 4 heavenly kings recovering their strength. Continue to open the array. Okay. At the last 2 array cores, Lu Chen suddenly stopped. What? Did you gain anything? The origin god asked hurriedly. Over 1,000 times, Lu Chen went from filling to drying up, and then from drying to filling again. He repeatedly experienced the changes in the primordial chaos spirit pill, and his familiarity with the spiritual energy within his body had reached an unprecedented level. Lu Chen shook his head. My spiritual energy perception has become more sensitive. There is also the state of selflessness. I can do as I please, but there is no qualitative change. Origin God furrowed his brows and sighed. This state is not something that can be broken through just because you want to. Otherwise, I would have already passed on the pain sense to you. Without any qualitative changes, there is no need to rush it. Prepare to open the spirit vein. Remember, the spirit veins here are different from the origin crystals. Heavenly stars come from outer space, and the spirit energy here is violent and without consciousness. You can only cultivate for 10 days before the spirit veins fully awaken. When the spiritual energy erupts, my virtual image will not be able to withstand it. The rest is up to you. With that, the origin god returned to the origin god badge. Lu Chen also greeted Rhubarb and the others and prepared to leave at any time. On that day, Lu Chen adjusted his condition to its peak and broke through the last array core of the Fudu Purgatory Spirit Locking Array. At the instant the array core opened, the entire Chushan mountain began to quake. The gigantic meteorite began to spin rapidly, and a vast amount of spirit chi gushed out like a tsunami following its rotation. Fortunately, Heavenly Star had yet to fully recover, and Lu Chen could still resist the spiritual energy storm. Holy shit, Heavenly Star's spirit chi is so powerful. Lu Chen quickly sat cross-legged amidst the raging winds. I wonder what aspect of strength this Heavenly Star can strengthen. Lu Chen quickly entered a cultivation state. The moment he closed his eyes, Lu Chen felt as though his psyche had been sucked out of his body as he was sucked into an empty space. After experiencing what felt like an intergalactic transmigration, Lu Chen suddenly landed on an unknown planet. The planet was many times bigger than Earth. At the instant Lu Chen landed, he felt an extremely terrifying gravitational pull. Even though his physical strength far exceeded the limits of ordinary humans, he found it difficult to stand the moment he landed. He knelt to the ground until he was completely sprawled on the ground. His entire body was under immense pressure. Lu Chen had a hideous expression as he tried his best to resist the gravitational pull. Moments later, Lu Chen felt that although he was unable to move, he was finally able to resist the gravitational pull. He looked at the world around him and was even more alarmed. This place was completely dark. Countless volcanoes were erupting around him. Lava soared into the sky and heavy rain fell from the sky, washing the entire world. Most of the area was seawater. Under the effect of the raging winds and volcanic eruptions, terrifying waves were set off. Smoke, steam, magma, torrential rain, gales, tsunamis flooded this chaotic world. This made Lu Chen recall the popular science programs he saw on TV. During the early days of Earth's formation, it was probably like this. At this time, there shouldn't be any life existing. Where is this? Lu Chen was astonished. But then he thought of a possibility. If the origin crystal is the origin stone of Tai Star, then could this planet be the original world of Heavenly Star? Heavenly Crystal had traveled an unknown distance in the vast universe and consumed an unimaginable amount of spirit chi. But after landing on Tai Star, the spirit chi it contained was even more violent than the origin crystal. It could be seen how terrifying the original Heavenly Crystal was. This violent world was actually very compatible with the Heavenly Crystal's violent spirit chi. My consciousness should have been pulled by the Heavenly Crystal's consciousness to its original world. I don't know if cultivating here is considered as cultivating. I only have 10 days. Every spirit chi vein is crucial for cultivating. I can't waste it. Lu Chen struggled to sit up. Damn it. Divine Devil Symbiosis. Lu Chen directly activated the Divine Devil Symbiosis state and crawled up. It was definitely not easy to maintain concentration in this kind of environment. If Lu Chen hadn't gone through more than 1,000 training sessions, it would be very difficult for him to enter the cultivation state so quickly in this kind of environment. The main body here shouldn't be my body. Then I should directly activate the Anata state. Chaos Spirit Pill. Tna, Spirit Chi Subtlety, two great states were activated at the same time. After entering this state, Lu Chen immediately discovered that this world had changed. What spewed out from the volcanoes was no longer boiling hot magma but a large amount of spirit chi. Between heaven and earth, countless spirit chi collided with each other, forming this chaotic world. Is this what the world looks like when it first formed? Lu Chen was attracted by this scene and continued to perceive everything around him. He even forgot to cultivate his own spirit chi. What shocked Lu Chen was that in this purgatory-like world of evil, there was the aura of life in the seawater. Moreover, it wasn't like the primitive single-celled organisms on Earth. It was a giant sea beast. Although they weren't divine beasts, their bodies were huge, exceeding 1,000 meters. There's actually life in this kind of place. Yeah, didn't life also form in the early stages of Earth's formation? Everything was formed in this kind of inconceivable environment, giving birth to life here. Destruction followed construction, no construction without destruction. Order was born from chaos. Weren't all things born from this chaos? It turned out that he had never unleashed the power of the Chaos Spirit Pill. Everything had Spirit Chi, and the Chaos Spirit Chi gave birth to all kinds of Spirit Chi. At this moment, Lu Chen suddenly felt a flash of light in his mind. It was as if a layer of shackles that he had been unable to break through was instantly seen through at this moment. Chapter 867. 10 days later, Lu Chen was immersed in this subtle feeling in Heavenly Star's source world. His spirit chi minute subtlety had become more sensitive, and the selfless state was more flexible. Most importantly, he had comprehended another state. This was a state that was based on the chaos spiritual pill, combined with spirit chi minute subtlety and the selfless state. It could also be understood as an upgraded version of spirit chi minute subtlety. 10 days later, Lu Chen was thrown out of Heavenly Star's source world. His consciousness returned to his main body. When Lu Chen opened his eyes, he realized that Chu Tianfeng had already begun to collapse. The sky was falling and the earth was sinking, as though it was the end of the world. Heavenly Star's energy is about to fully recover. Rhubarb Furball, let's go. Lu Chen leaped up and hugged the little beast god. He recalled the two beasts, spread his wings, and soared into the sky. Spirit Chi turbulence had already appeared in the sky. Lu Chen's figure was like a kite with a broken string in the sky. He would try his best to adjust himself and rush out. When Lu Chen rushed out of Heavenly Star's area of influence, he landed on a mountain peak. Damn, Heavenly Star's spiritual energy eruption is so intense. I almost couldn't get out. Looking from afar, the sky was already falling and the earth was cracking. A large portion of Chu Tianfeng's terrain had already changed. The surrounding mountains were compressing towards Chu Tianfeng. Chu Tianfeng would probably be even taller in the future. The Heavenly Star Spirit Vein had been fully reactivated. Lu Chen looked at his mission status. The Heavenly Pool, Origin Crystal, and Heavenly Star Spirit Veins had all been successfully reactivated. Out of the 5 ancient spirit veins, only 2 remained. The Origin God's voice suddenly sounded. Kid, what happened to you previously? My consciousness was sucked into Heavenly Star, into its world of wishes. Oh? Heavenly Star Spirit Vein is indeed different from other spirit veins. I heard that one cannot get too close to Heavenly Star Spirit Vein, as it can make one lose their consciousness. Sigh, it's a pity that I wasted my cultivation time. This kind of cultivation opportunity is hard to come by. Lu Chen originally wanted to say that it was not like he had gained nothing. Just at this time, Lu Chen discovered that the ground beneath his feet was cracking. The Heavenly Star had already affected this side. He hastily brought the little beast god and retreated. Even after escaping the Chu Tian mountain range, Lu Chen forgot about the matter and continued rushing to the next spirit vein. Peng Lai Immortal Realm. Peng Lai is surrounded by the sea on 3 sides. If the demon beasts invade, they will be in great danger. The origin god said, in the last great divine devil war, Peng Lai suffered heavy losses in the early stages of the war and almost perished. Lu Chen frowned. Is it a magical beast from the sea? That's right. Compared to the demonic beasts on land, the underwater ones are more difficult to deal with. They can attack from 3 sides and move very quickly. The coastal defense line of Peng Lai couldn't withstand them at all and was overrun within 10 days. They could only retreat to the rear and barely hold on with the West Kingdom's garrison behind them. Lu Chen asked again, is the 4th spirit vein in the sea? Go to Peng Lai. Where else can I go if not in the sea? Lu Chen shook his head. I hate fighting at the bottom of the sea. I have deep sea phobia. Deep sea phobia? What's that? There's nothing to worry about. I'll help you break the array. As for the demon beasts, I think the fellows guarding the spirit vein have already left. The 4 heavenly kings of the demon beasts can't wait for you to open the spirit vein. It's good enough that they didn't send anyone to fetch you. The origin god couldn't be serious when he was with Lu Chen and joked. However, Lu Chen didn't find it funny. The origin god was right. He was helping the demon beast army increase their strength. There were tactics that could harm oneself by 800 and harm the enemy by 1000. Now, he was helping the enemy increase their strength by 800 and himself by 1000. However, the enemy only increased their strength by 800. Could he really increase it by 1000? What are you thinking? Lu Chen sighed and didn't say a word. The origin god saw that Lu Chen wasn't speaking and said, by opening the spirit vein, you are constantly increasing the stakes. The stakes this time might be the billions of lives of the entire level 5. Instead, you are constantly increasing the stakes. Normal people wouldn't make such a choice. Lu Chen frowned slightly. I only know that I am the one who is increasing the stakes. So, I can't lose. At the same time, level 4. Lu Yi, Shuang Ling, Shuang Shui, Saintus, Cowherd, Beishue Gufei, Dongfang Ji, Zhengui Yanran, Moran, and about 20 other strong fighters from Earth were standing in front of the Tongtian Tower. Lu Yi looked up at the Tongtian Tower that reached the clouds. Tongtian Tower. After passing this place, it would be the 5th heavenly layer. Earth's Guide project was becoming more and more effective. After more and more people entered level 4, the United Front Department chose Lu Yi, Xingchen, and about 20 other strong fighters to focus on training. They gathered all resources and prioritized training these people. Lu Yi was originally in a dangerous situation and might not be able to enter the list of the strongest 20. However, her brother gave her more than a dozen elixirs and changed the situation. In the final selection, Lu Yi emerged as a new force and successfully entered the list. What are you thinking about? Beishue Gufei stood beside Lu Yi and asked. My brother is right in front. Lu Yi said. This time, because of Lu Chen, many strong fighters deliberately waited for the Earth players to enter the tower together. Among them was a super strong fighter like Shuang Ling. After Shuang Ling waited for her sister to enter level 4, the Tongtian Tower had already reopened. Originally, she could have entered the tower directly, but when she heard that Lu Yi and the others were going to enter the tower, she waited for half a year. If Lu Chen was here, he might not be surprised that Lu Yi and the others were here. Instead, he would have noticed another person. There seemed to be a strange person in the group of strong fighters. Cowherd was also in this group. Cowherd laughed and said to Shuang Ling, Lady Shuang, I can only take a ride with you guys this time. Shuang Ling smiled slightly. Elder Cowherd, what are you saying? I heard that you are ridiculously strong now. Sigh, I'm not the strong one. It's the strong one. Cowherd said embarrassedly. I originally wanted to retire in level 3, but I'm still worried about that stinky brat. I want to see him again. Right now, that guy's reputation on our planet is even higher than mine. I'm jealous. Shuang Ling smiled. Elder Cowherd, did you tell the people on your planet about him? I did. After all, we went to level 3 together. I couldn't not mention him even if I wanted to. Do you know what happened in the end? Now, all the young people on our planet worship him. I regret it. Looking at Cowherd's smiling face, he didn't really regret it. Shuangling looked at the Tongtian Tower. Elder Cowherd, you don't have to mind it. No matter where that guy goes, he will be the center of attention. After all, he is the solipsistic emperor. The Saintess was talking to some of the leaders of the savage tribes. She was trying to break through level 5 with the mission of opening a path for the entire tribe. This time, she might not be able to return for a long time. Naturally, there were many things that she was worried about. At this moment, the Saintess finally walked over after instructing her subordinates. Sorry for the wait. Let's go in. Chapter 868. From the Great Wasteland South Pole to Penglai, Lu Chen heard more and more about the invasion of magical beasts. The southern border of the Great Wasteland South Pole was attacked every day, and the attacks were getting stronger and stronger. At the same time, there were several incidents of spirit stone mines being attacked. At this time, wars were frequent, and the various countries no longer had the time to care about spirit stone mines. It seemed that the magical beast army's probing attacks could also help magical beast sovereign attack spirit stone mines. Along the way, Lu Chen also saw more refugees. After the construction of the city was completed, a large number of natives were arranged around the city to provide for the daily needs of the city. The old, weak, women, and children who had no labor force were directly driven out of the range of the city defense array. The natives were not stupid. Without the protection of the city defense array, they would only be cannon fodder if they encountered the magical beast army, so they looked for a hidden place to live. Wars broke out everywhere and refugees migrated. Correspondingly, a large number of bandits began to appear everywhere, blocking the roads and robbing people. Lu Chen even saw the bodies of the natives on the roadside. They were not the work of magical beasts, but were probably killed by humans. At this time, Lu Chen's greatest feeling was that the world was in chaos, and the people had no way to make a living. However, Lu Chen did not interfere with these matters. He continued to advance toward the Penglai immortal realm. There's no one left in the small towns. I haven't replenished my supplies for a long time. Lu Chen shook his head and washed his hair with the soap horn shampoo made by Lu. During this period, he felt that he was becoming more and more worthy of his cultivation level. 1-star wilderness cultivator. Damn, the higher the level, the more wild I feel. Give him a platform and he could start a wilderness survival livestream. After washing his hair, he washed his clothes, started a fire, fished, and ate. However, the little beast god was now able to run around on its own. It was wearing the tattered clothes that Lu Chen took from the Big Sister refugee's wheelbarrow. It was having a lot of fun playing with Big Yellow and Little Furball. This fellow ate origin crystal fragments and beast cores every day and grew very quickly. It now looked like a 3 or 4-year-old kid. Just as Lu Chen was busy, the origin god token lit up. Solipsistic, is your original world called Earth? Lu Chen turned to the grilled fish on the fire with a puzzled expression. How did you know? Some people from the Eastern Peak Nation came from the 4th layer of heaven. They asked about you, so I paid attention. Lu Chen's eyes were filled with astonishment. Could it be that the Earthlings had come to the 5th heaven? Speaking of which, he had been in the 5th heaven for more than a year. When he first returned to Earth, he had asked Lu Yi. The first time, Lu Yi said there were 2,000 people, and the second time, she said there were 8,000 people. In short, the development was very fast. However, being able to come to the 5th layer of heaven in such a short time was still beyond Lu Chen's expectations. Is the mentor plan really that awesome? Lu Chen shook his head. Sigh, progenitor god, do you know who they are? I don't know the details. I only know that most of them are from Earth. I only know that the royal family of the Eastern Peak Nation seems to have contacted them. If that's the case, they should be safe for the time being. Ah? The royal family of the Eastern Peak Nation? Lu Chen was shocked. Although he was familiar with Luo Yao, at the same time, he had almost killed the people of the martial imperial household. In addition, 2 months ago he had killed a royal guard, so he was not sure what the Eastern Peak Nation's royal family's attitude towards him was. "You silly boy, I said don't worry, so you can rest assured. Is there anyone in the royal family who doesn't know? Luo Yao?" Lu Chen frowned. "But don't you know that I almost killed one of their kings? Is Luo Yao more important than that king? Wait until you find out the answer yourself." Since progenitor God was unwilling to say, Lu Chen did not ask. "I don't know if Lu Yi is here. Last time, she was in the first batch to go to the fourth layer of heaven, but the competition among the strong people on Earth is getting more and more intense." Lu Chen was most concerned about his sister. "I don't know who else came up this time other than the people from Earth. The teleportation portals are not in operation now, so you can only enter but not leave. There is no chance to leave this place." Lu Chen passed by several cities with teleportation portals. Unfortunately, under the emergency national order, all the portals were closed and no one was allowed to leave the fifth layer of heaven. This was understandable. After all, if everyone ran away, there would be no point in fighting the Great Divine Infernal War. There was a sense of desperation. Of course, as an immortal cultivator, it was necessary to protect the fifth layer of heaven at all costs. For every race, even those with advantages, no one would directly enter the Jiutian from the sixth layer of heaven. This was their foundation, and they could not afford to lose it. The people of Earth had come to the fifth layer of heaven. The fifth layer of heaven was fundamentally different from before. Moreover, the fifth layer of heaven was now at its most dangerous time. How could Lu Chen not be worried? "Do you want to go back and take a look?" Lu Chen really wanted to go back, but after thinking about it for a moment, he shook his head and said, "Forget it. Since I'm already here, I can't change anything even if I go back. There is only hope if I find the other two spirit veins." After hearing this news, Lu Chen, who originally planned to rest early today, suddenly stood up, put out the fire on the ground with his foot, and called Rhubarb and the others to continue their journey. The border of Penglai also had a level requirement for immortal cultivators. Lu Chen could only take out his weapon, the worn-out wheelbarrow, and continue to cross the border as a refugee. The current Lu Chen, who had not eaten staple food for several days, was no different from a real refugee. He successfully passed. Penglai had many small islands, and the real land area was very small. After 7 or 8 days, Lu Chen arrived at the seaside. As soon as he arrived, Lu Chen found that the most important defense forces of Penglai were at the seaside. A long wall had been built at the edge of the narrow coast. Many talisman masters were rushing to set up a new defense array, refiners were reinforcing the fortifications, and beast tamers were setting up a large number of traps at the seaside. Just by looking at the defenders, there were at least a few million. Not to mention that there were a large number of defenders further away reinforcing the fortifications. Lu Chen shook his head. If this war starts, it is simply unimaginable. The Origin God said, Penglai also knows that the focus of their defense is at the seaside. This time, they are more prepared than the first great war of gods and devils, but I don't know if they can withstand it. Lu Chen could not answer this question, so he could only mix with a group of natives in the distance. The defenders were busy reinforcing the defense, but they also needed to eat and drink. These natives were the people who provided food for the fishing here. They lined up, and according to the defenders' request, each person boarded a small wooden boat and went out to sea to fish. If they still went out to sea at this time, they would definitely die if they encountered magical beasts. Perhaps it was because of this that they didn't send large ships out to sea, and only sent small ships out to sea to spread out the danger. Sure enough, they don't treat the natives as human beings. Lu Chen's eyes were slightly angry. "Hey, where did you come from?" The defenders quickly noticed Lu Chen. This guy only had one arm and was carrying a child. It was too conspicuous. "I am catching fish." Lu Chen looked innocent. "You can catch fish with this kind of appearance?" "Yes, I have learned fishing skills." "You have fishing skills?" Among the natives, very few people had the conditions to learn some simple skills, and these people were obviously treasures. "Hey, anyway, you might die outside. Hurry up and get on the boat." Lu Chen jogged to the dock and jumped onto a wooden boat. The soldier in charge shouted, "Don't go too far. Follow the buoy, or else you can't blame others if you fall into a trap. Could this small wooden boat slide to the Penglai immortal realm? Lu Chen did not care anymore. He quickly picked up the oars and quickly left the shore. Chapter 869. The Penglai immortal realm was located in the East Sea, more than 10 nautical miles away from the many small islands of Penglai. The sea surface here was covered in water vapor all year round, making the entire sea look like it was shrouded in fog. It was like a fairyland, hence the name. It was said that some people in the Penglai immortal realm had seen immortals walking on water and fighting with giant beasts on the sea surface. Of course, these were just legends. Lu Chen was now rowing a small boat and had already arrived at the foggy sea surface. The fishing boats around him had all disappeared. He was the only boat on the sea surface. The sea surface was calm. Looking around, one could only see the sea and the sky. It was endless. Only the area in front of them was shrouded in fog. This is the Penglai immortal realm. We have to go underwater again. Clear water pearl. Lu Chen took out the blue pearl. Little furball, stay here with little beast. Don't go too far. Lu Chen settled little beast down and dived into the water with rhubarb. With the help of the clear water pearl, Lu Chen and the others could stay underwater for a long time. Rhubarb's doggy paddling was very smooth. Lu Chen followed rhubarb and dived all the way down. When they reached a depth of a few hundred meters, there was no light around them. Only the clear water pearl shone on the two of them. According to Lu Chen's idea, the Penglai spirit vein might be in a crack at the bottom of the sea. However, after diving for less than a kilometer, Rhubarb did not continue diving. Instead, he began to swim horizontally. What's going on? After swimming for a while, there was a faint light in front of them. Lu Chen followed Rhubarb and approached quickly. As they got closer, the light became more and more obvious until it covered the light of the clear water pearl. Interestingly, the light emitted by the light source only illuminated half of the sea. The sea opposite Lu Chen was pitch black. This strange light source directly caused half of the sea to be illuminated while the other half remained pitch black. Using the light source, Lu Chen noticed that the water flow in the sea ahead was very strange. The seawater was like a whirlpool, slowly flowing clockwise. The speed of the water flow was not fast, and there did not seem to be any danger. Through the swirling seawater, Lu Chen could see a particularly bright light in the center of the whirlpool. It seemed that the surrounding light was coming from there. Rhubarb indicated that the spiritual origin was inside. Lu Chen called Rhubarb back and swam towards the center of the whirlpool. Without encountering any obstacles, Lu Chen smoothly entered the vortex and approached the light source. After getting closer, Lu Chen found that there were two huge pearls in the sea, one black and one white, with a diameter of tens of meters. They were motionless, and the light was coming from the white pearl. When the light reached the black pearl, it was completely annihilated. This caused the light source to be half bright and half dark. Solipsistic, this is the bipolar yin-yang pearl, a treasure nurtured by Tai Star. It is also the spiritual origin of the fourth spirit vein. The voice of the origin god echoed in Lu Chen's mind. This fellow could communicate with Lu Chen in his mind. Treasure? But don't try anything funny. This thing has already merged with all things on Tai Star. No one can take it away. Who knows how many demonic beasts and even immortals came to Penglai immortal region to try and steal the treasure, but they all returned without success. Lu Chen was a bit embarrassed. He had only tried to think of something funny, and he was warned by the origin god. I don't want to take it away, then how do I restart the spirit vein? This, logically speaking, you can just undo the surrounding array, but before the origin god finished speaking, Lu Chen had a bad premonition. You are so hesitant. Don't tell me you can't open it. It's like this. Just now I noticed that the array was a bit different from what I remembered. I have already thought of the reason. The bipolar yin-yang pearl can merge with all things. So after so many years, it has already merged with the 72 spherical heaven Big Dipper spirit locking array that sealed it. The original array is already very different from before. Lu Chen spat out a mouthful of old blood. It immediately turns into bubbles and rises up. It merged with the array that sealed it? In other words, the original 72 spherical Heaven Big Dipper spirit locking array was no longer the original array. The previous Photo Purgatory spirit locking array needed to break through 1024 array cores. This array should not be weak. If he tried one by one, he would be able to try until the end of time. Then what do? We can only force our way through the array. What? You said you would help me solve the array, but you want me to force my way in. What use do I have for you? Your words hurt my heart. Who would have thought that the bipolar yin-yang pearl would be so powerful that it could merge with an array? But don't be anxious. You have the God Fiend attribute. You might really be able to crack the array. Lu Chen could not help but shake his head. The Origin God's use of might was really ingenious. In an instant, Lu Chen understood how high the chances of success were. These were array formations that could seal spirit veins. They were much more terrifying than the array formations that protected mountains and cities. He had never attempted such a high-level array formation before. However, if the array formation had changed so much that even the Origin God could not solve it, he definitely did not hope that he could open the array formation blindly. Forget it, I can only force my way in. Origin God, how do I do it? Activate God Fiend Symbiosis and attack the bipolar yin-yang pearl with Sword Chi. I should be able to trigger the array formation. Lu Chen quickly recalled Rhubarb and activated it. Huge Ravagers swept out towards the bipolar yin-yang pearl. Before the Sword Chi struck the two pearls, the surrounding seawater began to swirl violently. The powerful swirling force caused huge Ravager's spirit chi to swirl into a vortex. Lu Chen immediately felt a terrifying suction force around him. Don't resist. Follow the suction force. Lu Chen had just relaxed when his body was quickly sucked into the vortex. His body spun wildly with the current. Even the spirit chi in his body was stirred up. It could actually cause the spirit chi in his body to become abnormal. Spirit chi subtlety. Lu Chen hurriedly controlled the flow of spirit chi in his body. After a moment, when he felt that the spirit chi was no longer so difficult to control, he suddenly realized that he was already in a sea of stars. The swirling finally stopped. Lu Chen floated there, looking at the empty starry sky around him in a daze. This is, if I'm not wrong, this should be the 72 Chaotic Heavens Big Dipper array, after fusing with the bipolar yin-yang pearl. In my memory, the starlight in the 72 Chaotic Heavens Big Dipper array is an array core. Destroying the 72 array cores will break the array. However, the amount of starlight here is twice as much as before. Look at that starlight. There's a black hole behind it. I don't know what kind of change this means. If it was only 72 array cores, Lu Chen could still accept it. Let's not worry about that for now. Let's find a starlight and try it out. Lu Chen finished speaking and was about to make a move. Wait, Yuan Shin hurriedly shouted. What? The 72 Chaotic Heavens Big Dipper array is not easy to deal with. All the spirit chi here will not dissipate. In other words, if you attack the starlight with Huge Ravager, unless you can be sure to destroy the starlight, Huge Ravager will attack you from any direction. Even if you destroy a starlight, the collision of the two spirit chi will still turn into an attack to attack you. Now that the bipolar yin-yang pearl has changed the array, it might have other effects. Lu Chen widened his eyes. In other words, he had to be prepared to be beaten up by his skills. Chapter 870. Lu Chen had no choice but to use Great Ravager to test the waters. A Great Ravager swept towards a spot of starlight. Moments later, the sword beam passed through the starlight and vanished. During the attack, Lu Chen discovered that the starlight had suddenly turned dark, and the dark star beside it had suddenly turned into a new starlight. Holy shit, this! Just as Lu Chen was feeling depressed, a sword beam swept out from behind him. Upon closer inspection, it was not difficult to see that it was the Great Ravager he had just used. Lu Chen hurriedly dodged as the sword beam swept past him, shooting into the distance before disappearing once again. Before Lu Chen could think of a way to deal with the spherical Heaven Big Dipper formation, The sword beam suddenly appeared beside Lu Chen and attacked Lu Chen once again. Don't be hit by it. The impact after hitting it will not disappear. Instead, it will form a new attack. The origin god warned. It was just one sword beam. Lu Chen naturally had no problem dodging it, but it was too troublesome. He could not be hit, so he could only dodge. If there were more attacks, the situation would become more dangerous. Origin god, the starlight can dodge. How do I attack? Why don't I try attacking the starlight and dark stars at the same time? You can try. Lu Chen once again sent out two sword beams, but the two dots, one bright and one dark, suddenly overlapped and then disappeared. Only when the two sword beams disappeared did the two dots reappear in their original positions. This time, Lu Chen had to deal with three sword beams. Lu Chen widened his eyes. The starlight can be transferred to the dark star, and the dark star cannot be attacked. If they are attacked at the same time, they will vanish. How do I fight this? The fusion of the two extremes becomes Taiji. The origin god was also trying his best to think of a solution. The yin and yang stars can exchange and fuse. It is indeed difficult to crack. Lu Chen dodged the three sword beams as he continued to think of a solution. The yin and yang stars could transfer themselves and fuse to avoid his attacks. Finally, the attacks would return to him. This feeling was somewhat similar to Taiji. An eye for an eye. If he continued to fight like this, he would probably be killed by more and more sword chi before he could find a way to break it. If he wanted to figure out how to break the formation, he would have to figure out how its spiritual energy worked. Thinking of this, Lu Chen temporarily stopped attacking. Spiritual chi subtlety. Lu Chen was stunned when he entered the spiritual aura subtlety state. The spiritual energy in the entire array seemed to converge into a huge image, and this image was none other than the supreme extreme diagram. That's not right. Where's the pair of yin-yang eyes in the Taiji diagram? Lu Chen suddenly realized that something was amiss. In a normal Taiji diagram, there was yang in yin and yin in yang. It was the pair of fish eyes, but he had yet to see the Big Dipper array's yin-yang eyes. That's right, maybe the bipolar yin-yang pearl is that pair of eyes. With this in mind, Lu Chen hurriedly asked, Origin God, do you know about the Taiji painting? Yeah, what's wrong? Do you remember the pair of fish eyes in the yin-yang diagram? I saw the yin and yang circulation of the spherical heaven Big Dipper array, but I didn't see the pair of fish eyes. Fish eyes? Oh, you mean the dual use of Qiankuan? I don't know what it is either. Anyway, it's just those 2 points. Do you know the exact location? I know. One is in Kanzhongwu, and the other is in Lizhongji. What the fuck? You should just point it out to me. Lu Chen was speechless. How would he know if it was so profound? You don't even know the 8 trigrams, and you still have the nerve to say that you're an immortal cultivator? The origin god was also speechless. He could only create a virtual image and look around. Where is the Taiji painting? I don't know how to use spiritual chi subtlety. If you don't tell me, how can I point it out to you? The center of the Taiji painting is beneath our feet. The direction I'm facing is 12 o'clock due north. The origin god nodded and sighed. Can you go back and study the 8 trigrams? What 12 o'clock direction? Who can understand it? North, right? Lu Chen also had no choice but to nod his head. Yes, it's due north. If we're in the middle of the Taiji painting and facing north, then there should be one there. The origin god pointed in a direction. In front of them, starlight flickered, but there was nothing in the direction the origin god was pointing at. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. It's probably hidden. Maybe the key to breaking the array is the Qiankuan dual usage. Do you plan to attack? Don't forget that the Taiji painting can rotate. If you attack, you'd better ensure that your attack hits and destroys it directly. I know, Lu Chen said in a low voice. Then, Lu Chen activated the God of War possession, devil transformation, 3 lives reincarnation, and soul body as one. Suddenly, Lu Chen's body exploded with a violent spiritual chi. The origin god looked at Lu Chen in surprise. Was this guy's strongest state? Lu Chen took a deep breath and pulled out the limitless demon god sword. I hope we can break the array, or we'll be in trouble. Fierce tiger descends the mountain. Sacred lotus sword heart. Sacred lotus sword heart? He even added tiger descends the mountain. The origin god's eyes widened. If this attack did not hit, then they would be bombarded by the sacred lotus sword heart. 2,160 sword chi blasted toward the void. The extremely fast sword speed was almost like a ray of light. After using the sacred lotus sword heart, the 3 sword chi from before shot toward Lu Qin. Lu Qin hurriedly dodged and then looked nervously in the direction of the sacred lotus sword heart. Far away, he suddenly heard a series of explosions. Lu Qin was delighted. It looked like he had hit. Sure enough, the void that was originally empty was suddenly filled with flames. It turned out that there was really something hidden in that void. We hit. The origin god's eyes widened. Now let's see if we can destroy that array core. Reality proved that the sacred lotus sword heart's power could only be described as terrifying. After being attacked by a series of sword chi, the white pearl appeared. At the same time, all the white pearls in the Big Dipper array seemed to be attacked. A moment later, all the pearls lost their glow. But at this moment, the entire array suddenly shook violently. It was as if there was a pushing force that wanted to push Lu Qin out of the array. If he could not completely destroy the 72 Chaos Heaven Big Dipper array, then there was no way to open the spirit vein. Lu Qin hurriedly turned around and shouted anxiously, "There's another place. Quick!" There. Lu Qin quickly raised his hand again. Not good. I'm going to be pushed out. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. Just as his voice faded, Lu Qin suddenly realized that he had returned to the water flow. Origin God, are you there? I'm here. Did you use your Sacred Lotus Sword Heart just now? Upon hearing the Origin God's voice, Lu Qin heaved a sigh of relief. I used it, but I did not have time to use Tiger Descends the Mountain. And I was in a hurry. I don't know how many sword chi I used. Previously, time was of the essence. Lu Qin could only give up on Tiger Descends the Mountain. The Sacred Lotus Sword Heart's attack had been reduced by half. He did not know if it could destroy the array core. At this moment, the surrounding water flow gradually slowed. Lu Qin looked nervously at the dual polarity yin-yang pearl in the center of the whirlpool. From the looks of it, it was not prepared to let him enter the 72 Chaos Heaven Big Dipper array. Did he break the array or not? Chapter 871. Brat, the 72 Spherical Heaven Big Dipper formation is broken. The Origin God suddenly exclaimed in Lu Qin's mind. How do you know? The water flow is about to stop. And look, that's one of the 4 heavenly kings of the devil beasts, the 9 nether white centipedes afterimage. It has already left the array, which means the array has been broken. The Origin God was extremely excited. Hurry up and cultivate. Don't waste this opportunity. The surrounding water flow slowed down and was almost no different from the surrounding seawater. In front of the dual polarity yin-yang pearl, the shadow of a huge creature with a human body and a snake tail flashed and disappeared. It rushed out of the water as if it was escaping. White centipede? Yes, a creature created by Nuwa according to her appearance. She is a special beast because there is only one. She once followed Nuwa to mend the sky with the soaring snake, but later fell into the netherworld. You have to be careful when you meet her in the future. Her strength is very terrifying. Lu Qin shook his head. Black Qilin, Torch Dragon, and White Centipede. Not to mention the Supreme Beast, even the 4 heavenly kings were not easy to deal with. Now was not the time to complain. Lu Qin hurriedly swam to the dual polarity yin-yang pearl. When he was in front of the 2 pearls, Lu Qin could feel how huge the pearls were as they quietly floated in the water. How magical, to be able to transform the formation into another appearance. Heaven and earth can indeed fuse with all things. At this moment, a low voice sounded in Lu Qin's mind. This voice seemed to be a mixture of many voices, like a human and a ghost, symbiotic body. You have some connection with me. This was obviously not the Origin God's voice. That kid did not say a word. Perhaps the owner of this voice had blocked him. Who are you? Puma. Haha, your question is very interesting. I don't know who I am either. With your human understanding, you can probably think that I am the level 2 pearl in front of you. How can you speak? Since I can fuse with all things, I can naturally communicate with you, said the voice. Do you think you broke my formation? I just saw that you and I have some fate, so I removed the formation. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. What exactly was this spiritual source? Was it a living thing? Or was it the remnant soul of a god? Not only do you have a fiend god symbiotic body, but you also have a sky-devouring rat and a beast god? Tiske, you're an interesting human. The voice continued. Fine, I'll lend you a hand. But Lu Chen suddenly asked, why are you helping me? I'm not trying to help you. People say that a wise man is bound to make mistakes, but the heavens never fail to plan. I just want to see if this unsolvable situation is truly unsolvable. Was it really that hard to change fate? As for you, can you really defy the heavens? My spiritual chi will recover in about 30 days. At that time, you won't be able to get close to me. Take this opportunity to comprehend everything you've experienced in the 72 chaotic heaven dipper formation. If you need, you can re-enter the illusion at any time. Whether you can gain anything depends on your own luck. In 30 days, leave this place immediately. With that, the voice disappeared. Why was I unable to communicate with you just now? Origin God's voice suddenly appeared. That pearl spoke to me just now. Lu Chen answered. It told me to comprehend my experience in the formation. I have 30 days. Then why aren't you hurrying? Origin God didn't mind that he had been excluded from this secret conversation at all and urged him. Lu Chen nodded and quickly sat down cross-legged, entering a state of selflessness. In the past month, the magical beast army's activities had become more and more frequent, even causing serious damage to the borders of the 7 countries. Luo Yao hadn't slept well for a long time and looked a little tired. This morning, she had just rearranged the defense line with the Ministry of War and met with the envoys of the 7 countries. Falling Dust had already received the recognition of the other 6 war gods and was currently receiving their guidance to learn the 7 ultimate formations of destiny. It was said that he was making rapid progress. This was the only piece of good news at the moment. Perhaps Falling Dust could really become the new ice god and help the 7 countries resist the magical beast army. On the other hand, the various countries had lost more than 50 spirit stone mines, but in the past week, there had been no news of any other spirit stone mines being attacked. This sounded like good news, but Luo Yao couldn't relax at all. There was another reason why the spirit stone mines weren't being attacked for no reason, and that was that fellow no longer needed to devour spirit stone mines. Its strength seemed to have taken shape. In addition, there was news from the 7 countries that the 4 heavenly kings of the magical beasts, the black Qilin, the torch dragon, the white centipede of the netherworld, and the corpse Kuan, had been seen one after another. The 4 heavenly kings of the magical beasts were all gathered. Now, there was only one person left to appear. The super magical beast that had slaughtered countless cultivators, the sovereign of the magical beasts. In the study, Luo Yao sat down and sighed. Although the 7 countries were unprecedentedly united, could they withstand this heavenly tribulation? 1 in 10,000. Could it be you? Falling Dust? Luo Yao thought hard but couldn't find an answer. Were you solipsistic? Or was there no such person at all? Thinking of the solipsistic, Luo Yao remembered that someone had said that he had entered the East Peak Nation, but he hadn't come to find her in such a long time. That fellow didn't seem to know her identity. If he knew that she was the Jade Emperor of the East Peak Nation, she wondered what kind of expression he would have. However, although the solipsistic didn't come to find her, a group of people who claimed to be friends of the solipsistic came. Even if she was busy, Luo Yao would gradually become friends of the solipsistic. Not long after, someone asked to see her. Come in. Luo Yao replied indifferently. 30 humans came in, and they didn't seem to be high level, and they were all rogue cultivators. Greetings, Jade Emperor. Everyone bowed. Luo Yao stood up. You are friends of the solipsistic? Yes, I wonder if the Jade Emperor has seen him before? How is your relationship with him? A beautiful woman with a cold expression asked. This woman was very beautiful, especially the cold aura around her. Luo Yao couldn't help but take another look at her. You are an ice magician? Yes. This person was Shuang Ling. She was undoubtedly the strongest person here. However, Luo Yao only took another look. She was still very confident in her own strength. She had seen countless geniuses, but she was the only one who stood at the peak. Luo Yao had already seen through their thoughts. They probably wanted to find out her attitude towards the solipsistic before deciding how to deal with it. We are friends, Luo Yao said directly. You don't have to worry. Since you are his friends, I will protect you. Hearing the Jade Emperor's words, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Previously, when they asked around, the others didn't know why the Jade Emperor wanted to see them. Now they could roughly guess. It was for Lu Chen's sake that he took special care of them. Jade Emperor, how is that kid recently? Where is he now? Someone in the crowd suddenly asked. Luo Yao looked at the person who spoke. It was an old man. I don't know. If there is nothing urgent, it is better for you not to look for him. The demonic beast army is about to invade. At that time, people will be plunged into misery and suffering. At this time, it is very dangerous to look for him everywhere. Luo Yao warned. I have an urgent matter to look for him. The old man said. What is it? The old man smiled. I want to give him something face to face. What is it that is so urgent? Luo Yao couldn't help but feel strange. The old man smiled. The puppet he left in the third heaven. Chapter 872. Luo Yao frowned slightly. How important could a puppet in the third heaven be? However, since the other party wanted to find solipsistic, perhaps there were other reasons that he did not want to tell her. Old man, I don't know where he is either. I only know that he appeared at the western border 2 months ago. Cowherd shook his head. The fifth heaven was so big, where could they find that guy? In my opinion, why don't you guys stay here first? He will definitely come when he knows about you guys. This is better than you guys searching everywhere and not being able to find each other. Luo Yao said, moreover, the war is approaching. You guys don't know how terrifying it will be. It was the first time that both parties had met, and they had their reservations. They did not know what the other party's relationship with solipsistic was, so Luo Yao could only say so much. Right. If you guys are willing, you can join the forces in the capital. Now that the treasury is open, you guys can't get the cash withdrawal scroll if you don't belong to a sect. You guys should know how important the cash withdrawal scroll is by now. Everyone looked at each other. There were people from other powerful planets in the team, so they naturally understood the rules of the fifth heaven. Luo Yao left the study after giving her instructions. She still had many things to deal with. After that, everyone left Luo Yao's study. They did not stay in the accommodations that Luo Yao had arranged for them. Instead, they found an inn in the capital to settle down. After a while, everyone gathered together. Everyone's expression was solemn. It had been some time since they arrived at the fifth heaven. Facing the huge changes in the fifth heaven, many people on Earth had not even gotten used to it. At this time, they encountered the demonic beast army that frequently attacked the cities. There were corpses and bandits on the road. It was fine in the East Peak Nation, but in the West Kingdom, there were many corpses on the road. When they arrived at the fifth heaven, it was the most chaotic time. They had just arrived and witnessed the cruelty of the fifth heaven, especially Lu Yi and the rest. In the fourth heaven, Lu Chen had basically paved the way for the Earth players. In the originally cruel fourth heaven, Lu Chen had directly changed the rules of the battle between the 9 forces to reduce the danger to the Earth players. Now that they saw such an environment, they felt the pressure multiplied. Brother, where are you? There's going to be a battle outside, and you're alone outside. Those magical beasts are so strong. Lu Yi was so anxious that her eyes were a little red. Shuang Ling walked over and held Lu Yi's arm. Yi, don't worry. Didn't the Jade Emperor say that your brother appeared recently? That means he should be fine. The Saintess nodded and said, solipsistic is not an impulsive person. Dongfangji's brows were tightly knitted together. I'm not worried about that fellow. Even if he can't beat him, I think he'll definitely be able to escape if he activates soul body as one. What we should be worried about now is the invasion of the demonic beasts. I didn't expect to encounter a heavenly tribulation that hasn't been seen in 1,000 years when I just arrived at the 5th layer of heaven. They had naturally heard a lot of rumors in the streets, Cowherd said. Actually, the Jade Empress is right. If we go around looking for him, why don't we let him come to us? As long as the Jade Empress spreads the news, that guy will definitely come back. Right now, we have to establish ourselves in the 5th heaven. Otherwise, when that stinking brat comes, he will bring us along as a burden. The Earth player Xiao Yaofeng said, That's true. Lu Yi, we were nurtured by the guide plan. The efforts of billions of people over so many years. If we can't survive, it will be a devastating blow to the guide plan. Not only us, but everyone here should also bear the hopes of their respective forces. The saint is here, Shuang Ling and Shuang Shui of the Frost clan, the Earth players, including Bei Shui and Gu Fei, who wasn't the hope of their respective forces. Yes, Xiao Yao is right. Instead of continuing to search for Mad God without any clues, why don't we wait here for him? At the same time, we can quickly increase our strength. At least, we can protect ourselves in the war. Yes, I can see that the Jade Empress is taking care of us. Otherwise, with our current level, who would be willing to protect us? We have to use this opportunity to strengthen ourselves. Soon, everyone came to an agreement. They temporarily gave up on searching for solipsistic and stayed in the Dongyu nation. Dongfangji stood up and said to everyone, Everyone's war souls are not weak. However, the level 5 heaven war souls are greatly limited, and the time of the original body can only accumulate for 1 hour at most. So, my idea is to join a sect first and take advantage of the support from the National Treasury to obtain the cash withdrawal scroll. Although Lu Yi was still worried about her brother, she had to consider the big picture at this time. Bei Shui Gufei walked to Lu Yi's side and looked at her encouragingly. Your brother will be fine. Lu Yi nodded. I believe in my brother. Now, almost all the major forces in the Dongyu nation have gathered in the King City. Let's go and collect information now. At night, we will discuss which force we should join. Later, we will ask the Jade Empress to recommend us. Dongfangji immediately got busy. As time went by, the demonic beast armies probing attacks at the borders of various countries began to escalate gradually. 10 days later, a large-scale war broke out at the borders of the Dongyu nation. The demonic beast army was as large as 100,000, and the number of defenders was 220,000. This was the first war where the demonic beast army had reached 100,000. The two sides fought in the pavilion city of the Dongyu Southwest Fortress for 4 days and 4 nights. The Dongyu nation quickly pulled out the defenders from the surrounding cities to support them. Relying on the Great City Protection Formation, they finally blocked the attacks of the demonic beast army. However, the defenders suffered more than 80,000 casualties, while the demonic beast armies suffered less than 10,000 casualties. Moreover, they were all low-rank demonic beasts. It was a ratio of 1 to 8, and the demonic beasts lost low-rank combat power. This news quickly spread back to the King City and shook the entire court. However, this war was just the beginning. 5 days after the battle at the pavilion, the White Lion Nation, the West Kingdom, the Penglai Nation, the 4 nations of the Great Wilderness, the Serene Demon Nation, the Buzhou Nation, and the other 6 nations were attacked by the demonic beast army of more than 100,000. Among the 4 nations of the Great Wilderness, the Serene Demon Nation, which had stronger offensive power, had rank 8 demonic beasts appear. The weaker West Kingdom's southern city was directly attacked. A small city in the Buzhou Nation was attacked, and the White Lion Nation almost lost a medium-sized city. In the following month, large-scale wars broke out frequently. Within a month, the demonic beast army of more than 100,000 attacked more than 30 times. At the same time, spies reported that the demonic beast army was continuously pouring out of the demonic beast lairs. At this time, everyone knew that the Great Divine Infernal War had begun. Luo Yao looked at the memorials that were not presented to her. 2 cities in the southwest had already been attacked, and the southwest defense line had been forced to shrink. The defenders had suffered more than 200,000 casualties, and the aboriginals had suffered 400,000 casualties. This was just the beginning. Luo Yao looked up and asked, "How's the ice goddess?" King Wu stepped forward. "Ice goddess Luo Bing will be out in half a month." "Has she finished cultivating the Destiny 7 ultimate formation?" "The 7 gods are in the process of breaking in." Luo Yao heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, there was good news. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.